You're listening to the Plane Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 174 of the Plane Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and joining me back in the kitchen studio this week is my co-host Matt Smith.
Well, hello everyone, welcome. Welcome. 174. We really are munching through.
We
them,
are
we?
getting
It's
through.
It's going to be
these,
our
aren't we?
special 200th episode really soon.
I know.
It's getting so close.
So we've also got with us this week, as usual, our awesome co-host as well, joining us, Mr. Neville Bounds. Good evening to you, Nev.
Hello. How's everybody? All good?
We're all good. Yeah,
absolutely.
Excellent.
It's been an exciting evening. That's
it has, yes,
been one of those days, isn't it?
Yeah,
But no, we are all well, and it's been a bit of a hectic week over here actually. But no, very, very good, and we'll talk more about that later on, I'm sure.
Indeed,
So,
yes.
yeah, great to be back on the show. Thank you.
Nev's been out in the field for us this week, busy doing lots of important things.
Yes.
So joining us as a guest host this week, he's back. He's the king of Harpjet. He is the legend in the cabin. It's our own little, well, he's a little diamond, isn't he? In the rough. It's Eoin.
Hey guys, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Carlos.
Yes, indeed. Slightly scarring, isn't it?
Slightly
Really?
old playing it. I'd say.
Indeed. Yes.
So
Great to be back on the show.
how's things with you, Eoin? Where have you been this week? Barcelona? Spain?
I've only had one flight since the last show.
And you've got to tell them what happened on. It was Tuesday night, wasn't it? You've got to tell everyone what happened on Tuesday night. To you. It was hideous.
Hold on, wasn't Tuesday night when we had that really, really, really huge, and I mean the size of Great Britain, thunderstorm?
I think there was one or two thunderclouds in the sky, certainly.
Anyway, carry on though.
Yes, absolutely.
So we went out to Nice and back, and going to Nice was fairly straightforward. Coming back then, though, we departed slightly late just because of the weather. We wanted to wait for it to move away from Stansted Airport, so we didn't leave Nice for about half an hour. Got into the air and held over the channel for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes before we decided to divert. So this is my first diversion that I've had in over a year of working for Harpjet, and we diverted to East Midlands, where we stayed on the ground for another hour and a half.
My commiserations. Ew.
And we got back to Stansted about 2 o'clock in the morning, just over 2.5 hours late. So
yeah, I think Eoin, I think you messaged me about, was it 3:20 in the morning or something stupid, saying that you'd finally escaped the terminal building after doing much paperwork, because you that wasn't the end. This wasn't the end of the story, was it? Of course, because there's no buses running at that time of the morning, so Eoin can't get away from the terminal building until the buses start again at 4:20.
It was either that or paid 20-something quid to get back home in a taxi, which is just a bit ridiculous.
At that time of the night, I suppose so.
So basically, you had a really fun flight that day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was interesting to say the least.
Indeed. So, Nev, now you're obviously been you're forever whizzing over the entire world. Have you done any flying this week at all?
No, nothing actually really in the flying calendar officially until November the 1st.
Oh.
But I've got a couple of trips lined up, possibly Munich and very possibly Salvador in Brazil in October.
Brazil.
So that might be interesting. I've never been to South America before.
Wow.
So
I did notice that BA's shares have gone down a bit this week.
Okay.
So.
They are. Yeah.
Well, there we are. What can you say? Anyway, we probably ought to crack on. Yes.
It is the 21st of July.
Still,
it is
right.
26 minutes past 7. We've got loads of people in the chat room. Too many names to mention. We've got loads of stuff to get on. But welcome to everyone who's joined us in the chat room this evening during the show. So we've got a segment from Nev coming up later.
Yep.
We've got a bit of feedback from Barbara.
Yep.
We've also got a segment from Pip.
Yes.
And we've got our first interview from the Royal International Air Tattoo RAF carry a
And
fair
also,
bit.
we've got something very special from the old pilot as well.
We
as part of
have,
our feedback, so,
Captain Nick sent in a awesome little bit.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
afternoon,
Talking about
yeah.
turbulence, which we're looking
is.
forward to covering. So, but
Very
as it's
topical.
as we do every month, it's time to sort of thank those that help us get the show out. And Nev, we'll hand this over to you, if we may.
Yeah, they're very important contributors, and this month for the Patreons, and it's from Adrian Meacham, Captain Jeff, Dr. Steph, Stuart Black, Jeff Newman, Liz Piper, Adam Spink, Matt Donnemeyer, Jeff Ward, Ben Todd, York Moeller, Philip Labe, Captain L, Matthew Bunting Frame, Myla, Ryan Harper, Jenny Parkinson, Stuart Backer, Ray Williams. And special thanks to Philip Davis as well for his very kind contribution to the show. It all helps, ladies and gentlemen.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And with that in mind, of course, we've got several air shows coming up, one of which is actually next weekend. And if all goes according to plan, on the Saturday at Old Buckenham Air Show, you will find myself and Owen. We will be there, hopefully, if fingers crossed, everything goes according to plan on the Saturday. And then myself and Carlos will be live, doing a show live from there on the Sunday. So if you are going to the Old Buckenham Air Show, please do make sure you come and say hello. We've got some exclusive footage that we're going to hopefully be playing out while we're there. So yeah.
So don't forget, if you want to donate to the show, take yourself to the website and click on the Patreon tab, become a Patreon to the show. Anything from $1 or whatever you've got laying around in the sofa, down the back of the car seat, or under the mats in the car, or if you've just got a few quid laying around, that'd be awesome if you could donate, and it all goes to help towards the show.
Excellent. Well,
so we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
I am indeed, yes.
And if you're ready, Nev.
Barely.
And if you're ready, Owen.
I'm ready.
Let's go. So, kicking off this week's first news story on the traveller.com.au, and the headline...
Australia, mate.
Actually, no, sorry, this is the telegraph.co.uk, I should say.
What?
Sorry, bit of a mishap with the stories there, but this is this is on the telegraph.co.uk.
It's going so well.
The headline, introducing June, that's Joon, the new airline for millennials.
Okay.
So Air France is launching a new airline aimed at millennials, whose lifestyles revolve around digital technology. Oh, this will be good for you, Matt. The carrier has announced, so scheduled to launch this September, June, will offer an innovative and offbeat experience to its young and connected jet-setting clientele, claims Air France. The new brand has been entirely designed to meet their requirements and aspirations, the carrier said in a statement. Sporting a more hip and casual feel, passengers can expect to be served by cabin crew wearing electric blue-coloured basic and chic uniforms, thick white trainers, blazers with rolled-up sleeves, polo shirts, and ankle-length trousers.
I've already glazed over, ladies and gentlemen.
The crew's apparel, which was reportedly inspired by workers in a Silicon Valley startup, is supposed to capture the airline's dynamic attitude. A millennial, always wonder what one of those was, typically describes someone aged between 18 and 35.
Oh dear.
Though that definition is...
There's only one person in this current environment who fits that brief, sadly.
Though that definition has been a source of much debate. Air France told CNN that 40-year-old passengers would be allowed to fly at June. However, it's unclear whether passengers who fall further outside that millennial age bracket will be welcome on board. It's also unclear whether the cabin crew must also be millennials. So Air France could not confirm where it will be flying or how much the tickets are going to cost, or whether there will be any services designed with millennials in mind, such as enhanced in-flight entertainment systems or targeted food and drink menus. It did, however, reveal that June would not be a low-cost airline. Further information about the new airline will follow in September this year, when June is expected to launch European routes from Paris. Long-haul flights will follow in 2018, Telegraph Travel understands, and the new carrier will use single-aisle A320s as well as the long-range twin-aisle A340s and A350s. It says here the generation has inspired us a lot, said Caroline Fontaine, VP brand at Air France, describing millennials. The Epicurean and connected, they are opportunists. Oh, blimey. In a positive sense of the word, they are known to how to enjoy every moment, are in such a quality of experiences that they want to share with others. June is a brand that carries these values. Well, that's interesting.
So, throwing this out to the only person here at the appropriate age group who can make any comment on any of this, because let's be honest, chaps, the rest of us are all far too bloody old. Owen, now come on, now if they're talking about it being like sort of maybe the crew, I mean, great news for you. It just means you might need to brush up on your French if you're going to fly on this particular carrier. But I mean, how would you feel about? I mean, is this the outfits that they're talking about? For the cabin crew as well. Yeah. Now, how do you feel about that? Because
I think there's one really kind of point that hits me, and it's the point of authority and the flight crew and the cabin crew's authority. When you're looking at someone who's dressed
down Fridays,
clubbing gear.
But, well, I was trying to put it more eloquently than that, but clubbing gear. Or that's. I don't think that gives an image of authority, or I don't think people will respect their authority as much as they might respect someone else who was in, shall we say, more formal. A formal uniform, or a more standard uniform.
I mean, I would argue that perhaps it makes when you're wearing your sort of shirt and tie and all that kind of thing, an appropriate outfit. Of course, it does mean that you do obviously stand out from the punters. So it's very easy to identify who you need to talk to if you've got a problem, essentially.
Exactly, and I don't know that particular point will, or that particular attitude will come across on this airline, but I think it is a good idea if they're trying to do it around digital technology, around sort of a newer generation. I think there's a lot of prestige involved with flying with a carrier like Air France or British Airways or those sort of carriers. So it might appeal to a clientele who wants a little bit more upmarket than your EasyJets or Ryanairs or some of the low-cost airlines, and maybe quite not as, shall we say, snobby as some of the more mainline carriers.
Captain Al has said in the chat room, does anyone remember Denim Air? The cabin crew, their cabin crew wore Levi 501s.
Really?
Didn't know.
Wow.
Okay.
I also think what's Niki Lauda's carrier called?
Lauda.
Is that just Lauda?
Yeah.
I think they have.
Was it Niki?
It was actually no. It was Niki, wasn't it?
Niki,
actually?
yeah.
Niki, that's the one. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
I think they also have jeans as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. It must be because I'm now officially reaching the stage of old fart, but it doesn't work for me personally. I do think we ought to just cling on to, people still wearing shirt and tie and things. I don't know. It's just.
Well, I wouldn't be comfortable in jeans. The only reason I wouldn't be comfortable in jeans is because when you go out to places like Palma de Mallorca and Malaga and maybe Marrakesh and those in the height of summer, and you have 35 degrees outside, you open the aircraft doors and you get a blast of hot air, and I don't think I could manage to stand in jeans for
more than about 10 seconds, yes.
Could I just interrupt very briefly, chaps? A bit of a message from Captain Al.
Okay.
He's asked us to put out a shout out to passengers at Aberdeen Airport who've been delayed by 38 hours on their flights to Friday due to a slight tech
Someone give them a
issue there.
meal voucher.
So we're very sorry. But
I'm
sure the airline is doing their very best.
I'm sure. Well, and ideally what they should be doing, obviously, is watching our marvellous show as a way of passing many, many hours. But
apparently, one of the passengers follows Al on Twitter.
Really? Oh boy.
There we go.
Okay, well there we are. That's,
so
we all have our cross to bear, don't we?
So moving swiftly on, Matt. The next story.
Actually, to be fair, couldn't they have swum home in this time? I mean,
probably didn't. Perhaps they were waiting for our show to start.
I see. Yes, I didn't want to miss a minute. You see, that's what it was. Yeah, there we go.
Right,
bit late, dude.
Bit late.
Anyway, okay, on to the next story. This is the Birmingham Mail, and it's story number 2. So that means one thing and one thing only. Good old Ryanair. Birmingham Mail. Ryanair passenger fury after all planes' luggage left behind at Birmingham Airport after baggage belt failure. So furious airline passengers claim their luggage arrived at their destination 24 hours after their flight landed from Birmingham Airport, caused by a baggage belt failure. Financial consultant Aaron Moran, 58, I don't know why the age is relevant, was among holidaymakers who caught the Ryanair flight FR3091 to Malta yesterday at 7 a.m. Oh no, your favourite airport. Oh, Carlos.
It gets better, this story.
Does it? He landed in the capital Valletta.
Pardon?
Valletta.
He landed where?
He landed in the capital Valletta.
He landed in the capital of Valletta in Malta.
Okay, right.
Can I just point out, for anyone who doesn't know, the capital of Valletta, or the capital which is Valletta of Malta.
I'm guessing it's not Valletta.
Nowhere near the airport, which is in Lucca.
Right.
That's it's not anywhere near.
Okay.
It's about a half an hour.
So is Valletta the capital?
25-minute drive. Valletta's the capital,
right, yes, that's
but
what
there
was
are
tripping me
no
up.
runways in Valletta.
Okay. Well, maybe they landed on the road.
I mean, there's a big harbour there for cruise ships.
Okay,
but we'll just put that straight for the Birmingham Mail.
So
he
landed. We'll talk about inaccurate media reporting a bit later on, maybe.
Oh, excellent! Carry on, Matt.
Okay, all right. Yeah, do you mind? That's all right with you. Yes. So he landed at the capital Valletta with wife Tracia at 11 a.m. Trachea, that's an operation, isn't it?
That is, yeah.
That's something to do with breathing difficulties. At 11 a.m. and they waited for their 2 suitcases to appear on the carousel. Yet the couple claim horrified passengers were told all of the passenger luggage had been left behind. Ryanair has blamed a baggage belt failure at the airport for the luggage problems, which were beyond our control. We weren't the only ones watching the empty conveyor belt go round and round and round for over an hour, said Mr. Moran. None of the 150 or so passengers' luggage had made it to Valletta, and there was uproar. There was total confusion, and nobody from Ryanair told us what was happening. We presumed our luggage had been loaded into the wrong aeroplane at Birmingham Airport, or it never made it onto the aeroplane at all. Mr. Moran said that the couple waited more than 3 hours at the airport with no explanation for the missing luggage before going on to their hotel, the Excelsior. Well, it's a bit of a communications faux pas. I think that's probably the best way to describe this story. Not really a lot else we can say about it, so I think we should move on.
I just think it's it's media at its best, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't know. There is a big harbour, though. Perhaps they did land on the water.
Perhaps. Maybe that's why they lost their luggage.
Yes, yeah. So moving on.
They ejected it over the yes, anyway.
Yes, perhaps it was Valletta South or something.
Absolutely, indeed.
So moving on to the next story, Nev, this is all for you.
Yes, it's in the Independent, and it's a BA story, and so there must be some stardust in the air. It says a week after Air New Zealand launched its latest in-flight safety video, which swiftly went viral, clocking up 16 million views on YouTube. British Airways has released its star-studded equivalent. Well, it needs some PR at the moment, that's for sure.
Does it?
And the 6-minute film runs through the safety instructions for BA flights, as well as introducing their Flying Start charity, which supports comic relief. The video, produced in conjunction with the charity, features the likes of Gordon Ramsay and Gillian Anderson running through the safety demo. Tandy Newton is on hand to explain where the emergency exits are, and Rob Brydon demonstrates the use of a life jacket, and Sir Ian McKellen and Warwick Davis show how to use an oxygen mask. Jim Broadbent, meanwhile, demonstrates how to put his tray table up and down, and Rowan Atkinson finishes off the film with some Mr. Bean-style capers with the Flying Start donations envelope. Comedian Asim Chowdhury compares, in the guise of a director, auditioning 10 celebrities for the video. And a longer version of the film will be shown on flights from the 1st of September, replacing the current animated film, which has run for the past 12 years. This is the first video for BA to use celebrities, though other airlines, notably Air New Zealand, have done so before with great success. And Air New Zealand's Jodie Williams told The Independent this week that their videos double as marketing tools for both the airline and New Zealand as a destination. And Air New Zealand's 13th video, which stars Katie Holmes and Cuba Gooding Jr., has already been viewed 16 million times. The British Airways film, meanwhile, has managed a respectable 236,000 in a day.
Not bad.
And that's pretty good, isn't it? And BA CEO Alex Cruz said in a statement, "It's extremely important to us that customers engage with our safety video, and involving some of the nation's most well-known personalities has given us the chance to create something fun that we hope people will watch from start to finish." And the video is a rare piece of good news during a period where the airline has been hit by negative stories like the cabin crew strike and the recent bank holiday meltdown. And not everyone is happy about the release. One member of the cabin crew who wished to remain anonymous told The Independent, "Paying celebrities to promote the latest 5-minute wonder is both a kick in the teeth and a show of disregard to BA's struggling staff. They should be paying attention to their crumbling airline instead." And a BA spokesman said that the airline does not comment on relationships with celebrities, but everyone involved in the video has already an established relationship with Comic Relief. The only thing I would say about this, notwithstanding all the negative comments about it, I think if it's a good safety video, people will actually watch it. And what's the biggest problem that the airlines have? Is people not watching the safety video. So I think this is a positive move for the airline, and be interesting to see how it goes down.
So for those of you watching on YouTube and listening to the podcast, here is your opportunity then. So let's play it for you now and see what you think.
Okay, so you're here to audition for a part in the British Airways safety information video. Can you just look into the camera and give your name, please?
Hi, I'm Chiwetel Ejiofor.
And have you done any safety videos before?
No, only feature films.
Well, this could be your big break, okay, mate? So don't mess it up. Shall we get one in the can, guys? Now listen, Chiwetel, there's going to be an auto cue, so you don't have to learn the lines, you just read them. Okay, focus. Okay, action!
Hello. We will now demonstrate the safety features on this aircraft, and your attention is essential, as these may differ from any aircraft that you've flown on before.
Bit of a show-off.
Take care your hand baggage does not block the aisles or exit. It must be put under the seat in front of you or in an overhead locker. Place items in the locker carefully, as they may fall out and injure someone, especially if it's a bag full of duty-free goods, darling.
Actually, sorry, that was meant for Joanna Lumley.
Muppet.
Sorry.
In the case of an evacuation, you must move quickly to the closest usable exit, taking absolutely nothing with you. And I mean nothing, sweetie.
Yeah, that's another one of her lines.
Me. You.
Sorry, action.
All exits are clearly marked and are being pointed out to you now. Please take a moment to locate your nearest exit, bearing in mind this may be behind you.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
No, seriously, that bit about the nearest exits, really powerful. Please, carry on, Sandy.
Tandy.
Dandy. Sorry.
Opening the doors automatically inflates the evacuation slides. And remember, high-heeled shoes must be taken off as they may tear the slide.
God, no way. Designer shoes, like me. We're so like soulmates. We should hang.
No.
Cool.
If the cabin air supply fails, oxygen will be provided. Masks like this will appear automatically. Stay in your seat and pull the mask towards you. Place the mask over your mouth and nose like this and breathe normally, adjusting the band to secure it. Please note that the bag may not inflate. In all the washrooms, Club, World and First cabins, you may need to pull on the coloured streamer to release the mask. And please, please, do make sure your own mask is fitted before helping anyone else.
That was so wonderful. Oh. You know, you'll get the pass.
Do you think so? I hope so.
Next.
Right, pay attention, please. Your life jacket is underneath or beside your seat. If required, please remove the jacket from its container and pull it over your head. Pass the tapes around your waist and tie them securely in a double bow at the side. And thus a double bow. To inflate, pull the red toggle as shown. When you see a red toggle, that's definitely the toggle to tug. Now, the air in this rather wonderful jacket can be topped up by using this neat little mouthpiece. There's also a charming whistle and light combination for attracting attention, should you be one of those people who enjoys attention. And please, fairly obviously, do not inflate your lovely life jacket until you've actually left the aircraft, at which point, toggle up, inflate away, and whistle all you like.
Okay, so Jim, I'll read the line, and then when I do the nod, you do the action.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, please now ensure that your seat is upright and in the takeoff position, with armrest down. Your footstool and video screen are stowed if you have them, and your table is folded away. Genius! Look, I got goosebumps.
Was that it? Just the tray table?
That's it. And you smashed it.
Oh. Well, I suppose it would have a certain je ne sais quoi. Thank you.
In the unlikely event of the aircraft having to make an emergency landing, you will be told to adopt this protective brace position. If facing rearwards in Club World, you must adopt this position. If you have any questions, please ask your cabin crew.
Great, very intense. I love the soured face. Maybe we could try the next bit just a little less serious?
Less serious?
Just chill out, mate, really. You know, maybe if you just move your head, actually. Just... No, it's fine.
Okay.
You got it? Yeah, exactly, so we can see the beautiful smile. Very radiant. But it's not X-Files, there's no aliens about. Just chill out, yeah?
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Gillian. Action!
You'll also find the Flying Start donation envelope in your seat area. So if you've got any spare change in any currency, find it, take it out, and put it in the envelope. Please.
Spot on. Okay, that's a wrap.
On behalf of British Airways, Comic Relief and Flying Start,
thank you for your attention and your kind donations.
Every penny of which will help children all over the world.
Living really tough lives.
If you have any questions, or you can't find your safety card,
or Flying Start envelope,
Please ask one of your gorgeous cabin crew members.
Have an enjoyable flight.
And yes, Lane Street, Gillian Anderson is British.
She is, yes, I'm afraid so. Now, it's fair to say we were watching the chat room while that was going out, and I think it's fair to say it's very much split opinion in the chat room. There are some that like it, there are some that don't like it. One thing I have learned is nobody likes Gordon Ramsay.
Tony S. Tony S.
I quite like Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, I do too. But yes, we're not here for our opinion, Owen.
Tony S. has put in the chat room. He's put, "What a load of Charlie Romeo Alpha Papa."
Oh dear.
Yeah, he wasn't impressed by it.
Was he not?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so it's Scott. Where are we? Sort of. Barbara was actually making quite a good point, actually, which was how it's sort of like, I may argue that this kind of film undermines the cabin crew authority. I know many may not agree, and to be fair, Captain Al was very briefly, this is a momentous moment, he was quite serious. Captain Al was actually quite serious for a moment there, sort of basically agreeing. So I don't know, I mean, I kind of agree a little bit with Micah in the fact that he's saying that it's, you know, it is, if people sit there and watch it, I mean, the problem is now that we've played it, anyone who flies with British Airways has already seen it if they've watched our show. So I don't know, but you know, the amount of YouTube views and stuff are sort of quite good. I don't know if people watch it and they do actually pay attention to it. Then
there's someone here.
Okay?
There's someone here who's going to watch that video a heck of a lot.
Well, that's true. Nev, you're going to be so sick of it.
Well, they've got to do something, haven't they? That, you know, they just cannot get people to watch the safety video in general terms. And if I'm on a A320 of BA, there's probably more than 85% of the people that aren't watching it. So they have to do something. Is this a step in slightly too far? possibly. We'll have to see how it's received in 3 or 4 months' time, maybe.
It has, but
it's worked for New Zealand.
But is it not because now everybody's going to compare it to the Air New Zealand video because they did this sort of thing first, where they did like the Hobbit video and all that kind of thing. I mean, so they were really the people that sort of did it first.
They were the pioneers.
Yeah, indeed, pioneers. Yes. Oh,
I do think it is a bit long, though.
It's quite long.
It's a very long safety demo.
I mean, they're going to have to start it the very second that everybody gets in the cabin, aren't they? So that it's ready for so they're ready for takeoff. But good news, by the way, Owen. Gordon Ramsay is great. That's from Jonathan Warner, but he does sort of quantify that, saying maybe it's because I also get quite angry in the kitchen. So maybe it's kind of a double-edged sword, that one. But BA is scones, jams, clotted cream, and Pims. That sounds nice. Yes, I like that. Yes. So it's what's that? Good to hear that. Oh, good to hear the return of the Peel Fisher music, of course, which is the track that they used to use. What was that?
Yeah, that's my thing. Yeah.
You were right there. Have you just trod on Poppycat or something?
Yeah. So moving on to the next story then, getting on back to the aviation theme. Mr.
Nice.
Owen, this next one is for you.
So this one is from the dailymail.co.uk, and it says 30 bullets are found in an American Airlines worker's carry-on bag after he flew from the US to Japan.
Bear in mind, this is the word after he flew.
Oh, good.
Yes, this is slightly worrying. An American Airlines flight attendant was stopped flying from Japan to the US, carrying 30 bullets in his hand luggage after he forgot they were in his bag.
As you do.
Police at Tokyo's Narita International Airport stopped the man as he was due to board a flight back to the United States. The flight attendant, who is described as a US national in his 50s, claimed he was unaware he was carrying the rounds in 2 magazines. Worryingly, he had carried the ammunition in his hand luggage on the outbound journey as well. Security officials in the American airport, which has not yet been identified, failed to intercept the loaded magazines. Airport police.
They were in a magazine. Oh my God! Right.
Okay. I'm assuming it's a magazine of bullets.
Yeah. Well, this is
like
it. Yeah.
Not a publication.
No, not a publication involving ammunition. No. Indeed. Yes. Because if it is, the Daily Mail have got completely the wrong end of the stick of this story, which is not going to be the first time that's ever happened. Let's be honest.
Yeah. No.
Yes. They're another quality publication, if I recall, Nev. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. That's it.
Anyway, carry on.
Sorry, Owen.
Airport police official Masatoshi Ito said the man forgot he was carrying.
I'm so glad you've got this story.
That having live rounds in your hand luggage is against US law. Police released the man later Saturday as he posed no danger of destroying evidence, Ito said. The man and the airline also promised to cooperate in any future investigation. Police are still investigating how bullets were undetected when he arrived at Narita and went through customs. American Airlines said in a statement that the crew member headed to Dallas after his release, but refused to disclose details of his flight out of the US. The airline also declined to comment on how a crew member might have walked through the US security checks. US airports are stepping up baggage checks for passengers flying in from overseas. Police are also considering a possible violation of the Japanese gun and sword control law, but the flight attendant was not charged with any crime. I think this is a very slightly worrying article, especially when it's saying that they didn't manage to catch it on the outbound, with America being seen to have one of the, highest security ratings in the world.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me with this story is actually not so much this guy genuinely seemed to like, because I mean you have to accept obviously rules that the law is different in the States. They're allowed to have handguns and all that kind of thing. And I do genuinely, when you read this story, I do genuinely believe the guy, it was a genuine mistake. He didn't intend to have left it in his hand luggage. But the bit that is screaming at me is like, how on earth did he manage to get through security until he got to the other end and they found it? That's what's got alarm bells ringing for me. Not so much that, as fortunately, this was a genuine guy who obviously has handguns and forgot to take that magazine out of that bag because he used it for another purpose or whatever. But to get to the other end before somebody finds it, having been through what, as you say, is supposed to be the most intense security experience you'll ever come across, especially in the States. I mean, it's worrying.
Also worrying is the fact that it says U.S. airports are stepping up baggage checks of passengers flying in from overseas.
Mm-hmm. Yes, maybe they should
It looks
start
like
at
they're
home
trying
first.
to shift the blame a little bit.
Yeah. Indeed.
But I'm not too sure that that's the right approach.
Yeah, funny one there.
I'd like to point out as well, just a bit of thing here on this story, that the pictures they've used. I know.
I'm not putting them up. Just moving on.
the pictures are like of American Airlines aircraft, but in the livery that's
good,
a bit out of date.
Okay, fair enough.
Just as something.
It's a story. It's a picture that they had on file.
It's Associated Press pictures, so
okay,
yeah. Okay,
yes, fair enough.
No, I know.
Okay, Carlos, the next story is with you.
Yeah, this is a sad one. We've covered a few stories in the past about the Queen of the Skies, the 747. And this is on the CNN.com, the money.cnn.com website. And the headline, Boeing 747 jumbo passenger plane is on the way out. So is it the end of the line for the Boeing 747 as a commercial passenger plane? It sure looks that way for the original jumbo air jetliner. Once the largest plane on Earth, the 747 has defined the company more than any other. Boeing and early this month flew, Boeing and BA early this month flew a 747, well actually no, that's not BA, that's Boeing earlier, flew a 747-8 Intercontinental, which is obviously Boeing's latest iteration of the 747, back to the company's base in Washington State from the paint shop in Portland. It was wearing the colours of Korean Airlines and is extremely likely that this is the last passenger 747 to ever be built.
Oh no.
The airliner, which extends 250 feet and 2 inches long, will be delivered to Korean Airlines in the coming weeks. Boeing doesn't expect the jumbo jet to make a big comeback as part of its 20-year forecast released annually. Boeing said there's no appreciable demand left for building new passenger 747s or for the rival Airbus A350, the world's largest passenger aircraft. Instead, it believes airlines will continue to prefer big twin-engine aircraft like its Boeing 777X or the A350. Those smaller planes can now fly just as far as the huge jumbo jets while using less fuel. They also have fewer seats, which makes it easier for airlines to book them up. Frankly, we really don't see much demand for really big aircraft, said Randy Tinseth, Boeing's Vice President of Marketing, in June. There will just be a handful moving forward, things we do for VIPs, things we do for the present military operations, but we don't see a significant demand for passenger 747-8s or A380s. There are still nearly 500 passenger 747 variants in service around the globe, according to Flight Global's Ascend, but those numbers are falling as they're retired and replaced. Boeing has delivered more than 1,500 since 1970. Korean says it has no plans to buy any more passenger 747-8s or A380s from either Boeing or Airbus. It currently operates both types. The passenger version of the 747-8 first debuted in 2011 and was ordered by only a few airlines, including Korean, Lufthansa and Air China. The aircraft can seat 467 passengers and fly as far as 8,000 nautical miles. According to Boeing's official order book, there are still 2 747-8 passenger planes left to deliver. One is the final order for Korean Airlines and the other for an unidentified head of state. Boeing recently moved 3 747-8s from its ledger that were originally bound for Russian airline Transaero. That airline went bust in 2015. 2 of the 3 planes it had ordered were built by Boeing but were never delivered. These aircraft are now in storage and it's not clear when or where they will end up. It's a shame. It's a sad story, really.
It is.
That we're going to obviously see the demise of the passenger variant.
Yeah, but they have to. They have to. You know, you can say that all you like, but things have to change, don't they? I mean, you know, the 747 has been in service a long time, and it's now been superseded by technology and all sorts, hasn't it? I mean, 4 engines. You know, you can do the same thing with 2. It's all about the environment and things like that. I mean, it is sad, but
I'm glad I got to go on one anyway.
Yeah.
At least I can say I've travelled on a 747.
Indeed.
Yep.
Indeed.
So moving on to the next story, we better move on swiftly. This one is for you, Matt.
Yes, indeed. This is on the Australian Business Traveller, on what has been billed as an exclusive by this particular publication. It says Malaysia Airlines plans to bring forward the start of its Airbus A350 flights to London from London to try that again. Malaysia Airways plans to bring forward the start of its Airbus A350 flights to London to January 2018, but is putting expansion to other European cities on hold. Oh, well, that makes a change because it's usually London that misses out. The One World member now expects to take delivery of its first 2 Airbus A350s in November and December 2017, which will provide sufficient aircraft to take over the daily Kuala Lumpur to London Airbus A380 flights MH3 and MH4 by mid-January 2018. The Australian Business Traveller understands that 2 more A350s will arrive by March 2018, at which time the flagship MH1 MH2 flight would also be swapped from the double-decker Super Jumbo to the fuel-efficient A350. Malaysia Airlines will then have its Airbus A380 stripped back to an ultra-high capacity configuration and handed over to a new offshoot aimed at serving the bustling Muslim market for Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages to the holy city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. However, Malaysia Airlines is revising earlier plans to use the final 2 members of its 6-strong A350 fleet, now slated for delivery by June 2018, to reopen flights to Amsterdam, Paris or Frankfurt routes, which the airlines shuttered in 2015-2016. Airline CEO Peter Bellew previously axed plans to send the A350 to Auckland and ruled out other destinations such as Australia and Tokyo, saying it's an expensive aircraft and we have to find something meaty and significant to do it with. We hope to find something more than 9 hours. It's believed that no European destination other than London would provide the high traffic which Malaysia Airlines requires for its A350s, which will come with ongoing leasing payments rather than being bought outright. The Airbus A350 will sport a small first-class cabin of just 4 seats using the Vantage XL design from Ireland's Thomson Aero Seating, which also provided the platform for the Qantas Airbus A330 and Boeing 787 business class seats.
Now, you've been reading that map. Just looking at the pictures on there of these. These interiors are pretty awesome. You know, we cover about interiors and stuff and seating on aircraft all the time, but these Malaysian ones look really, really nice, these business class seats. And I've got a feeling they do use Bose headsets as well in there for passengers, which is also quite nice, I think.
There we go, yeah.
The business class seating does look incredibly comfy.
It does. It's they're quite nice, aren't they? I think they're really nice. These for those of you watching in YouTube, these are the seats that you can enjoy if you are one of the 4 seats that are available to you in first class. Now, these are quite comfortable, as you say. Carlos is saying, coming with fancy Bose headsets as well. I mean, they do look. You do look like you're sitting on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. It has to be said, yeah, it's quite sort of swanky. It's very nice. But as I say, if you take yourself to that website, which was the ausbt.com.au and search for Malaysia Airlines, and you'll be able to look at the pictures if you're listening to our audio show.
So
it's,
next
actually, to be fair, to do this, but actually the what I call the ordinary cabin, the one for you and I, doesn't look too bad either. Actually, it's quite watchable.
The one that we can afford.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we can even afford that, but nevertheless, it is. It's surprisingly spacious. Actually,
it does look nice.
I think so. That's not economy, is it? That must be something in between.
That's kind of a posh class as well.
Oh, is it? Oh dear.
Never flown Malaysia. Not the trouble.
I flew out to New Zealand before I got scared of flying.
It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, it was. I didn't have a great experience, but that wasn't anything to do with the cabin crew and everything to do with the moron that was sat in front of me. But we'll gloss over that and move on.
So moving on to the next story, Nev. It's another posh story.
Is it?
It is, isn't it? Yes. This is on the traveller.com.au website, and it's an airline review, and it's all about British Airways business class service from London to Singapore. And a lady called Andrea Black has done this review, and the duration of this flight is 13 hours and 14 minutes, and I've actually done this flight myself.
Wow.
But with Singapore, actually, not with BA. That's a little while ago. And the frequency of this flight, well, BA operates daily flights from Heathrow to Sydney via Singapore, and the aircraft from Singapore to Sydney is a Boeing 777. This is an A380, however, and there's 97 Club World business seats, 53 of which are in the upper deck, where she was seated. And if you want some extra space, opt for a window seat on the upper deck, where side storage, which doubles as a bench, runs the length of the aircraft. The upper deck is a 232 configuration, where alternate seats face each other. This next bit, I just cannot agree with it anymore. The privacy screen that separates seats is welcome, but it whooshes up and down at meal times for ease of service, which can prove awkward when forced to look into the eyes of a stranger whilst feasting on bread rolls and red wine. Because the seat converts into a fully flat bed. Now, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I have been in this situation, and you know, you have got that when you meet someone for the first time, maybe a client or customer or just a stranger, there's a personal space in there. You don't get too close to them.
No.
When you're in this configuration, you are very close to them, and that may not necessarily be a good thing. That's all I'm saying about it. But anyway, on the baggage side of it, it's very, very generous with 2 checked bags up to 32 kilos each, plus a carry-on bag, and 1 handbag, laptop bag up to 23 kilos.
Wow.
The comfort factor is good because that all starts at Terminal 5 at Heathrow with a free runway ready 15-minute facial at the LMS Spa. You can opt for a massage, or it's part of the service. And on board, you get this LMS amenity kit, which includes handy tips on staying refreshed. Who knew that putting moisturizer on the tips of your fingers, pitter-pattering in a raindrop fashion, will be so invigorating? Well, I wouldn't have known that, I have to say. The fully flat bed with memory foam pillow and Duna makes for a good sleep, and the noise-cancelling headphones in an already A380 cabin are also a bonus. Whilst on the entertainment side, whilst the touchscreen could be a little clunky, which it certainly is, I have to say. If it's the same one that's on the 777 fleet, it's very, very sluggish. The choice of entertainment was perfect for those who enjoy a good box set, and it's not just 4 episodes to get you hooked. They were difficult to find, though. All the HBO channels, for example, were hidden under the branded channels subcategory. There's a good selection of new releases and documentaries too, and there's ample in-seat power should you wish to watch or listen to your own devices. The service is always attentive, but not overly so, which for this reviewer is just the right amount, she says. When a cabin crew member noticed a line for the toilet, she whispered that there was much more spacious washroom in the upper forward area of the plane.
Hello. Yes.
She was right. It was palatial in size as far as the airline's toilets go. Use this one for changing into pajamas, but it's strictly bring your own. Unfortunately, BA doesn't dole them out. On the food side of things, from the welcoming Bucks Fizz to the seared fillet of British beef with honey roasted parsnips, the food and beverage experience was excellent. The menu features fresh to farm to tray table fare from the 7&Y Scottish salmon and Cumberland pork sausages to brie from the Cotswolds. Wow. The retro sweet selection from the Help Yourself Club kitchen in between meals was an added treat. As wines from Europe, New Zealand, Australia features, and as expected from a British carrier, there's a good selection of teas available. British Airways offer exclusive discounts for passengers, including shopping discounts, VIP passes and complimentary champagne at some of London's best hotels, so it's worth a look when in London. And she says that the experience began as it meant to go on with a pampering session at Heathrow T5 and continued in comfort all the way to Singapore, with a bonus option of a shower in the new Club World lounge at Changi Airport, Terminal 1. The round-trip fares departing Sydney on a Club World business fare starts from 6,880 Australian dollars, all inclusive to the UK and to Europe. The fares quoted were accurate at the time of publishing. Prices are subject to change and availability. Yeah, it's telling me. Terms and conditions apply. For bookings and more information, see ba.com. And she rates it 4.5 out of 5. And it says right at the bottom, because they have to say this, Andrea Black travelled as a guest of British Airways. So she didn't buy her own ticket like everybody else.
Right. Which probably means not only that they know she was on board, it probably meant that they were a little bit more aware.
Well,
yeah,
just saying.
But obviously one would assume perhaps that everybody...
I'm not too sure. When we have management or when we have our mystery passengers on board, we don't get told beforehand. So
I see. So somebody might have known, but not the.
Unless you happen to know somebody's name, you see them on the passenger manifest.
Yeah, that's true. I should just stress that we're being told off for talking about food, by the way.
Sorry,
gents.
Jen. Sorry, Jen.
We're in trouble now. Yes, indeed. Anyway,
we must move on.
Yeah, then to the story. Owen, this is with you, and it's not a very nice story, but unusual in the fact that it's happened with Virgin Atlantic this time.
All right, so this one is from independent.co.uk, and this is, as Matt said, a Virgin Atlantic flight to Jamaica. It says Virgin Atlantic flight to Jamaica diverted after drunk passenger shouts at staff who won't serve him more alcohol. A video of a disruptive passenger on a Virgin Atlantic flight to Jamaica has been uploaded online, including his forced removal from the plane after an emergency landing in Bermuda. The incident occurred on the 16th of May after the passenger in question was refused more alcohol by the cabin crew, a fellow passenger has claimed. Ola Lilly, who uploaded the footage to YouTube, added the caption, "Emergency landing in Bermuda on a Virgin Atlantic plane from London Gatwick to Montego Bay, Jamaica. Unexpected landing after passenger threatens cabin crew and fights with the other flight attendants and passengers. Drunk man demands more alcohol from the air hostess, and when she refuses to give him more, he gets aggressive, starts threatening the staff, swears, shouts, and throws things at other passengers and causes serious danger. The pilot decides to have an emergency landing in Bermuda to get the man arrested and off the plane. Virgin has confirmed reports that a passenger was removed. A spokesman said, "Our crew are highly trained to handle these types of situations and responded quickly to ensure the safety and security of customers on board. We do not tolerate abusive or threatening behaviour on board our aircraft. And whilst these incidents are rare, it is disappointing when a disruptive individual impacts that experience for other customers." The footage shows the man shouting and advancing on a male flight attendant who appears to be attempting to calm him down. Meanwhile, a female passenger gets involved, shouting at the man from across the plane and asking repeatedly, "Are you mad?" The man throws an item of clothing at her, which she flings back at him. The video then skips to when the plane made its emergency landing in Hamilton, Bermuda. At least 4 police officers can be seen pulling him off the plane. An eyewitness said when we landed and the police came, the guy refused to stand up and get off the plane. Therefore, more police officers had to come and drag him off the plane. The pilot then apologized to us and said it was best to land in Bermuda and arrest him as it wasn't safe for anyone to have him on board. At the end of our flight, Virgin Atlantic also gave us an apology letter.
Indeed. Now, we were playing this out, actually, while we were playing the video out while you were reading that story, Owen. And one of the things that's interesting here, again, if you haven't seen this story, by the way, guys, and you're listening to the audio version of the show, go to the independent.co.uk, and if you search for Virgin Atlantic flight to Jamaica, diverted, drunk, disruptive, you'll almost certainly find it. The YouTube video there is definitely worth a watch. And the one thing I would say in this, actually, now, I hope, Owen, you haven't had too much experience in this, given obviously working for HarpJet and that. But I think the biggest problem here was people were, the cabin crew were doing their best to try and pacify this individual. The problem actually here was that other passengers were getting involved. And I do wonder if that's perhaps
never a good thing.
Well, this is it, and actually the problem escalates and gets worse and worse and worse as a result of, as I say, this is my personal analysis of the video that I've just watched while you were reading that story. Is actually the other passengers got involved that got it much more heated, much more dramatic than it ever needed to be.
Yeah, definitely. When any incident happens on board, especially one of this nature, it's very, very difficult not to get a whole lot of attention from other passengers. As we saw, there's someone filming it. There's 2 or 3 other passengers there standing, sort of maybe taunting him or shouting at him, and that really makes the job of any cabin crew way more difficult to de-escalate the situation. So. For me personally, I'm not going to speak for my airline or for my profession, but for me personally, I would much rather to bring any situation like this into the galley, where there is a little bit more, privacy, for one, where you have more crew to be on hand to deal with somebody like this.
Yeah.
it's quite possible that you get people who won't follow you into the galley to sort of speak to you or things like that. But it really poses a problem having the other people looking in on situations. And I have had first aid situations in which we did ask one of our cabin crew to literally just deal with that, to deal with people. To deal with sort of getting people's attention away from the situation and trying to sit people back down, make sure that there is some sort of level of privacy and some sort of level of, relative non-attention so that we can get on with our job and with what we need to do to make it a safe flight.
Indeed. Lots of interesting comments here in the chat room, actually, as well. Several of which I can't read out, but honestly, Tony S., I completely agree with you. Tony King has said, what's wrong with people nowadays? Mr. Warner has an interesting approach. It's sort of basically deck him, problem solved.
Good.
I mean, that is one way of solving the problem. Somebody called Nev Bound saying absolutely appalling production values on this video. Again, I mean, that's perhaps a bit harsh, Nev. I don't know what you mean. Again, Richard King, a great idea here. Need a trapdoor in the cabin floor. I think that could be one way of solving the issue, isn't it?
Might be able to work something out.
You could always take them to the galley and beat them with a warm panini.
Right. Okay.
Human behaviour, though, is unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, you do get this situation, and there's always this possibility of what I term rent-a-crowd, with people joining in, just as Eoin said, and you can lose control very quickly under those circumstances, and it cannot be a lot of fun for the cabin crew. No question about it at all. So it's a very difficult situation, which needs careful handling, doesn't it?
Apart from the fact that you've got so many people sort of weighing in on the situation, one of the biggest risks that it poses, especially not so much in this case, but probably in this case too, actually, but my mind jumps straight away to a first aid situation. If you have a crowd starting to gather, it makes access to this person or persons much more difficult. And that is a really, really massive problem, because when you have someone in need of help, as this gentleman definitely needed, he needed some sort of help to calm him down and to get him settled again. If that got even more out of control, you need more personnel, you need more maybe restraining equipment, if you have people, if you've got this rent-a-crowd, as Nev affectionately calls it, you get a very big blockade in the middle of the aisle, which isn't a good situation at all. But yeah, very well done to the cabin crew who obviously managed to get this guy sat down, and good decision to divert, I think.
Indeed. A couple of quick points from the chat room, and then we must move on, obviously, because we've got a very busy show today. Barbara Parrish has said, this is why cabin crew need to show their authority from the start with their safety demo. It's a slippery slope. Otherwise, you encourage passengers to get involved when they shouldn't. I think Captain Aleth, other than talking about toilets, which we'll gloss over, said that actually since 9/11, some passengers feel they have a vested interest in getting involved. And I can kind of see what he means by that, because I suppose, the whole 9/11 thing sort of, I suppose, awoke people's, alert, I suppose. But it's a funny one, really. It's
I mean, on that point, I would say, unless you feel like you have experience or knowledge in how to deal with a situation like this, it's probably better to leave the cabin crew to do what they feel is in the best interest of the whole aircraft, unless that they specifically ask for people to come in and help.
Tony says they banned smoking on a plane. Why not ban the alcohol too? Somebody else actually said they're not really going to do that purely because they just make too much money out of it.
My paycheck would certainly go down.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely. Matt Caton says just give him another drink until he passes out. That's another approach.
Matt, to be fair, Matt would take his own beer on board.
Well, that's true. Indeed. Anyway, look, come on, guys, we must move on because we are running out of
So next
time.
story, moving on. As we all know, Emirates is a huge airline in the world and a big player with many aircraft. So the next story on the ArabianBusiness.com Headline: Emirates poised to announce Dreamliner deal with Boeing. Emirates is in the final stages of placing an order with Boeing for the 787 Dreamliner, reports Alige, as it prepares to launch a landmark partnership with low-cost carrier Fly Dubai. Emirates is believed to be in the market for between 50 and 100 mid-sized wide-body aircraft to fly medium to long-haul routes. The order is likely to be for a mix of 787-9 and -10 models, according to Aviation Press. The Dubai-based airline has been reportedly been trying to decide between the A350 and the 787 Dreamliner to replace some of its aging fleet. However, the company has refused to comment on when it may sign a deal. An Emirates spokesperson declined to divulge further information, saying on Wednesday this week that we regularly look at our fleet requirements and will continue to do so as we grow. For the moment, our priority is to optimize the usage of both fleets in order to meet customer demands. Saj Ahmad, got that one right.
Very good, well done.
A consultant at Strategic Aero Research wrote on his website that the Dreamliner decision was a done deal with Boeing. He told Arabian Business Emirates is going to buy 787s, that much is assured. Emirates has never reordered a jet it cancels. It cancelled the A340-600s in 2006 and never brought it after that. It ditched the A350-900 and A350-1000s in 2014, and they wouldn't dump them only to buy them again and lose lucrative delivery positions. Fact is, the 777X is more capable versus the A350s and adequate to replace the A380s too, meaning that the 787 is a natural fit, and Boeing has far more propensity to provide slots for Emirates, which Airbus does not, given the current product snafus on the A350 line. The deal would certainly be a coup for Boeing. Emirates cancelled its A380 order in 2014 after expressing concerns over the aircraft, and Airbus has since been forced to postpone delivery of new jets. Ahmad added that pricing for Dreamliners was aggressive at the moment due to backlogs at Boeing plants. That is why I believe Emirates will bite the bullet soon and not get left out of the 787 customer base. Dreamliners are also thought to fit well with Emirates and Fly Dubai's new code-share partnership announced this week as well. The agreement includes increased schedule alignment and network optimization for more than 200 destinations served by a combined fleet of 380 aircraft, the two airlines said in a statement on Monday. So awesome news for Boeing if this does go through, because obviously Emirates are a huge airline, and it's big. They're going to go from being the biggest A380 owner to being probably the biggest Dreamliner owner at this rate, I think.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So moving on to the next story, special story chosen just for Matt, this one, because he is a great fan of this particular aircraft manufacturer.
Okay. Now this is on the what I can only describe as the Wichita Eagle. Sorry, that's easier for you to say. And it's the headline is Bombardier marks global 7,000 flight test milestone. That'll be a Bombardier. Bombardier business aircraft has surpassed 500 hours of flight testing with its new global 7,000 business jet, the company said Monday. The 500 flight hours have been accumulated between three global 7,000s based at the Bombardier Flight Test Center in Wichita. The fourth and fifth global 7,000th test aircraft are in final assembly, Bombardier has said. With more than 500 flight test hours already logged, the program's development and certification schedule is on track, said some name I can't pronounce. But they are nevertheless the senior vice president of Global 7,000 and Global 8,000's programs, said in a news release. Our confidence level is high as we accumulate more flight hours and push towards entry into service in the second half of 2018. The Montreal-based company also announced that assembly of 4 Global 7,000s for customer deliveries is underway. The $72.8 million jet will be Bombardier's largest and will have the longest range. It will have a maximum seating for 19 passengers and a crew of 4 and a maximum range of 7,400 nautical miles with 8 passengers. The Global 7000's passport jet engines are assembled at GE Aviation's City plant. Now
this is a mega jet. This is one of those really, really nice biz jets developed by Bombardier. And if you want these Global 7000s, they have a list price. Obviously, no one pays the list price, Matt. But if you want to buy one of these, because I know you love these.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah.
If you've got a spare $72.8 million laying around, you can grab yourself one of these Global 7000s off the rack, and they do look pretty awesome. If you look on Bombardier's website as well, they've got some awesome pictures of the Global 7000, so check that out.
And the reason why I was being so sensible about this is because whilst Carlos was at RIAT, I was very kindly sent this particular video.
See the aircraft come through there, doing around about 240 knots, and you can see the...
There we are. Thank you, Jonathan Warner. That's why I was trying to be well behaved. So there we are.
I didn't know you had that.
And he'll probably kill me for playing that out because I didn't ask his permission. So I'm sorry, Jonathan, but I couldn't resist.
Oh, Mr. Warner, you legend, you absolute legend.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So there we are. Mental note, anyone. If you've got my mobile number, don't ever send me stuff because I will use it in the show without asking. So moving on.
That's a fantastic range. 7,400 nautical miles.
It's
that's
great,
about
isn't it?
That's about the same as the Dreamliner, the 787-8, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could be wrong.
Anyway, before we move on, Bombardier. There we are. We're done. Next.
He's got out of his system.
Oh, I feel so much better. Oh, you have no idea. Okay. Anyway, next.
Moving on. Next story.
Okay.
This one is
this would be Nev, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the itweb.co.za website, and it's all about bring your own devices, and in the Wi-Fi sense, and how airlines are developing more and more. And in-flight Wi-Fi will be offered on over half of global commercial aircraft by 2022, driving the impact of the bring your own device trend. This is according to the In-Flight Entertainment and Wi-Fi Connectivity Technologies, Business Models and Key Players 2017 to 2022 report from Juniper Research. The research predicts commercial aircraft adopting in-flight Wi-Fi service, which will reach 14,419 globally by 2022, up from an estimated 5,243 in 2017. Juniper says that this increase will primarily be due to the impact of the BYOD trend, despite increased security concerns from several governments, primarily the US, which has given rise to the so-called laptop ban. In-flight wireless streaming is increasingly being offered as an in-flight entertainment option based on a lower installation cost and weight savings versus seatback systems, with many vendors offering combined wireless streaming and Wi-Fi connectivity services. Wireless streaming will replace seatback in-flight entertainment on most short-haul flights, with seatback in-flight entertainment being increasingly reserved for longer flights with premium carriers, reveals the report. That doesn't surprise me at all, I have to say. That is a definite requirement and trend for that. And with Bring Your Own Device, consumer take-up is encouraged by wireless services, and monthly in-flight entertainment revenues forecast to rise by 30% on average per aircraft over the forecast period, notes the research. This indicates an increase of more than 1 billion available seat miles per day, and we expect a greater increase in 2017. Several major airlines decided on Wi-Fi systems in 2016, with plans to roll them out in 2017, whilst others have already begun a rollout. Comparing 2016 to 2017 shows that there's been a dramatic shift away from basic Wi-Fi systems to faster systems, signaling that airlines are listening to customers' feedback to improve Wi-Fi connectivity. And Emirates has made significant investments into our in-flight connectivity. In-flight Wi-Fi usage, already popular from the start, has grown tremendously, and the new in-flight Wi-Fi plans reflect Emirates' commitment to continue providing this as a free service for as many customers as possible, especially to our most frequent flyers. It says the Emirates VP and COO, and I think we're just going to be seeing more and more of this, and fewer seat back systems because of the weight penalties and the complexities of
this is a good idea. I think this is a really good idea. I've used this on Delta. Delta have got this system on their aircraft, a lot of their long haul stuff. And it's good, but what I think airlines need to do, if they're going to start to roll this out on fleets of various size aircraft, albeit from narrow body to the long range stuff, they need to be a kind of a one kind of slot fits all kind of adapter on the backs of the seats, a kind of adjustable holder, you know, for your tablet or your phone. I think that there needs. I know there is some systems on some aircrafts where some of these have been kind of put in place.
Yeah.
But if they're going to do this, there needs to be like a rolled out thing where you can put your, pull the little things apart, put your tablet in, and then
But you see, everybody's carrying a tablet with them anyway. That's the daft thing.
But
So
they're all
they've already
different
got it.
sizes.
They're all, they're all different sizes. But actually, because to be honest, because I flew United, I don't know if I mentioned at all. I flew on a 757-300 that I really enjoyed. Anyway, on the way out, I was using the screen that was built into the back of the seat, and the picture quality and the audio were absolutely abysmal. But so coming home, I actually fully charged my tablet, knowing it would last the entire flight without me having to charge it up or anything. And I ended up watching, because it had the facility, you could use the Wi-Fi and then download the same amount of films and everything to watch while you were going along. And I did that, and it was much better. The picture quality was really good. The audio was clean. It was great, because I got a really weird sort of whir stroke hum that was quite sort of hypnotic and almost tinnitus-like by the time I got to. As no one, it's probably why I was so poorly when we got to the other end, because I got into some kind of hypnotic trance that I never got out of. But I think it is the way.
Yeah.
I think it's the way it's going to go.
A good idea.
I mean, have you had much experience of this, Nev, or are you too busy working when you're sort of flying?
No, I've not yet been on any aircraft with Wi-Fi, actually. So I'm hoping to do that later in the year somewhere. But this has got to be the way forward, isn't it? Because I don't think that the seat back systems are that great. I know Panasonic and other manufacturers are huge suppliers to the airlines for their systems, but it's not that great. And as you say, your own tablet experience is normally far better than what you're getting in the seat back.
They tend to be quite sluggish, don't they? In the seat backs, they tend to be very, very slow and very unresponsive, especially the touchscrch pads.
To be fair, this one on the United flight, it responded fine. It was working absolutely fine. But as I say, it was picking up so much interference, because I had these lovely headphones that I'm wearing now that I got for a birthday present, and the sound, because they're these fancy Shure things, and the sound quality is incredible. Unfortunately, all it did when I plugged it, if I'd have had cheap and nasty headphones, maybe I wouldn't have noticed so much, but because these were plugged into the plane, all I heard was just this high-pitched whine of interference coming through. I mean, it really did make me feel, and because I didn't get any of that using my tablet. But,
there are some carriers that are doing this, right from the get-go. Air Canada Rouge is one of them. When they started up, I think it was in 2012, they didn't have any seatback entertainment or any overhead entertainment. They were using an app which you could. Yeah. I think you had to buy the app.
Oh, right.
It being a low-cost carrier.
Yeah. Of course, yes.
You had to buy the app. They also rented iPads, but the problem was I'm fairly sure that there was no plugs or sockets for the to charge it.
There was on my United
flight.
There was on my United flight just to the left of me, like where the two seats met. There was a little board down there that
actually when I flew Delta last, they had sockets there as well and USB ports, so that was quite nice.
Anyway, we must move on.
The last story, a bit of a nice story to end the news segment on this week for you to do, Eoin.
Okay, so this is a great story. ABCnews.go.com. American Airlines dedicates Boeing 777 to a 91-year-old mechanic for 75 years of service. Wow. That's a huge amount of time.
That's an insane amount of time, isn't it?
After 75 years with American Airlines, Azrael Al-Blackman says he isn't thinking about retirement. That's not my style, he told ABC News. Based out of New York City his entire career, the 91-year-old aviation maintenance technician started off making 50 cents an hour as an apprentice in the sheet metal shop when American was known as American Export Airlines. Since then, Blackman has worked on some of aviation's most storied aircraft, from the Sikorsky flying boat that kicked off American's transatlantic service to the original jumbo jet, the Boeing 747. The former U.S. Navy service member has dedicated his life to American Airlines aircraft. On Tuesday, his longtime employer returned the favour. At a ceremony at JFK International Airport, a curtain dropped to reveal a Boeing 777 dedicated to his 75 years of service. The aircraft is capable of holding at least 247 people and American Airlines and flying American Airlines' longest routes. For the remainder of the jet's life at American Airlines, his name and signature will be inscribed onto the left of the aircraft's main cabin door. Guinness World Records also awarded Blackman with the title of longest career as an airline mechanic.
Wow.
At the Tuesday ceremony in New York, the New York native climbed into the jet before its inaugural trip to London Wednesday, sporting its new paint job, and received a sky-high tour of his hometown. Blackman took off from JFK at 2:59 and flew north up the Hudson River to West Point before turning right and looping around the northern edge of Long Island at an altitude of just under 3,000 feet before returning to the airport. The flight lasted about an hour and a half to commemorate a lifetime's worth of service to the country's largest airline. Slightly hazy, he said, of the view from the flight deck. Very calm, quiet. Blackman says he has no plans to retire from his work anytime soon.
Good man.
What's the big deal about retirement, really? What do you do when you retire? Blackman told ABC News. You stay at home and watch the television, and that's just not my style.
Good man.
Oh, bless him. What an awesome story.
It is, absolutely. If you want to, there's a lovely little video that, again, played out on YouTube if you're watching. If not, take yourself, you're listening to the audio version of the show. It's abcnews.go.com, and then if you /US, and then search for American Airlines dedicates Boeing 777. And then you should hopefully find that. But it's a lovely little video. What a lovely man. And so few people end up working for the same.
75
that's
years.
Such a long time, isn't it? That is.
It's an incredible achievement.
How long were you in your particular tin hut? Loving every minute of it. Absolutely. Loving every minute of it.
Actually, Matt Caton said in the chat room, he said, imagine his redundancy check.
Well, there is that. Yes, absolutely. That's probably why they, it's like he knew he was going to be there until he'd had enough, because there's no way in a million years they could afford to pay. It'd bankrupt the company trying to pay him off.
And quite rightly, Liz Piper said in the chat room as well that, now he's going to retire and stuff, that he should listen to podcasts.
Quite right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody point him in our direction.
Yeah.
Or if he wants to stay awake, then send them APG's way. I think that's probably the best thing to do. Yes.
So that is where we bring the commercial news segment to an end, and the next part of the show is a special part which I'm going to hand us over to Nev to do all the introducing.
Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, well, as you know, we try and do a Nev's passenger experience every week, and here's another one. And I recorded this a few weeks ago, and it was actually my Kevin Murphy, who we are featuring this week. Kevin was actually my boss for a few years, and we've known each other for a good 30 years now, I think, as well.
Wow.
But Kevin's done a lot of flying over the years, and he's got some quite interesting stories to tell. Really about the airline experience and all the stuff that he does. So over to you, Matt, to play this one out. Hello everyone, Nev here again with another passenger experience segment. This week I'm speaking with a very good friend of mine and industry colleague, Kevin Murphy. I've known Kevin for some 30 years now, and he was actually my boss for some of that time as well. Kevin flies a great deal on business in Europe, the Middle East and the United States, and we spoke about the kind of service levels that he was experiencing on these sectors. Once again, the subject of British Airways came up, and their passenger service came under some scrutiny. But I began by asking him about his loyalty to BA and what it meant to him.
BA. I've stuck with BA for a number of years. It's only in the last 3 years, really, that I've been flying a lot. I don't know, it's probably somewhere around 120 to 150 flights a year, business and pleasure. But initially I stuck with BA because I feel loyal to British Airline, and it provides all of the services that I need to most of the destinations I need to get to. Give or take, there are some exceptions. But I think I acquired my gold status about 3 years ago, and I should stress, yeah, I'm a prolific flyer, but I'm not, I'm not up in the upper echelons. I still feel very, very pleased when I get my 1,500 tier points, and I had to work at it. I had to work very, very hard, because I fly economy in Europe for short haul, and I fly premium economy. That's the deal I have with the company. We really can't afford business. And you have to do a hell of a lot of flights. I mean, a lot of my gold card-carrying fellows that you meet in various lounges, they're all flying business, and it's actually quite easy to get to that status. But we're the troops at the end of the day. I've been using BA for many years, but over the last 3 years since I've been gold, I didn't pay too much attention about the ownership of BA. I just use this as an airline. I automatically look, if I'm going somewhere, I'll look first for a BA flight. We use a company travel agent, I'll find a flight and I'll tell them what to book. Sorted, done. But what I've noticed is that over the last 3 years, we've basically got an airline that's turning into like everything else. It's starting to lose any differentiation, any difference from any other airline. It's blurred, and it doesn't seem to have an identity. And it doesn't seem to just be the corporate BA, even the people. I think, many years ago, certainly when I first got my gold card, I remember the excitement of it. Yeah, it's quite a silly thing to a lot of people, get a gold card. But I'd be welcomed. They really would try to do priority boarding. They would come and greet you. And in fact, particularly on the plane, even on short haul, you'd find that the person would come up and say, "Hello, Mr. Murphy, nice to have you." And you felt quite special. It seems to have stopped. It doesn't happen to me much anymore, and I've noticed this certainly over the last year. You then have to add things like, I do a lot of short haul, so I do a lot of flights to Vienna, Salzburg, around Europe, usually silly times in the morning and coming back late at night. And then we got this situation with the Marks and Spencers on board. And it's not about the money, it's the fact that if I want a drink of water or something because I didn't have something in the lounge, I can't even pay for it. I have to use a credit card or Avios. It just feels like, hang on, what are you here for, guys? Are you here for yourselves, or are you here for the people that use you all the time? BA had to be very, very careful, because there's a lot of gold card holders and above the other upper levels, but we account for a lot of flights. To retain a customer, I probably am worth 20 normal customers at the end of the day, and it's worth looking after us. And the little things count. Even silly little things like if, I don't know, this is just a suggestion, anyone ever listening at BA, I'm on a flight, come and say hello. Would you like a glass of water? Would you like something, Mr. Murphy? That would take my level of enjoyment of travelling BA just up a notch, cost BA virtually nothing, and keep me retained. I think the problem I have with many others is at the moment is that in some respects I don't want to move from BA, because BA is convenient. They fly from Gatwick, they fly from Heathrow, 2 airports I go to all the time, and I can get around the world in most ways. But even I'm starting to think, maybe I'll acquire gold 1 year, maybe next year I might do it, get my gold status, keep it, and then see what I can do. I even looked at Virgin the other day, because I could probably get up the status in Virgin and do a deal with Virgin. And I think this is the problem. Many of us are doing it. Back to what else has happened with BA. I said it just feels like every other airline. Frankly, I've flown with EasyJet. They've been friendlier to me than BA in many respects, and I've got no status whatsoever. I can buy food on the plane with a couple of quid in my pocket. Not a problem. The seats, I don't know if I'm imagining it, but the seats seem to be getting closer together in BA on the short haul flights. I mean, I'm at 6 foot, I'm not highly tall, but I noticed the other day on a flight I was coming back from Vienna, I could hardly sit in the seat. There's hardly any room. It's become a Me Too airline. And I think over the last year I've started to take a little bit more interest in the ownership of the airline and where they're going, and looking at some of the news. And I gathered the other day that there was a survey of the best airlines in the world, and BA did not feature. That's unacceptable. At the end of the day, it's turned into a Me Too airline. It's got no differentiation. It's cutting all the costs. But as we know, if you just cut costs and go for austerity, at the end of the day, you will lose your customers.
During that BA IT outage, and I'm putting that in inverted commas the other week, a lot of people got put on to Qatar and some of the other Middle Eastern airlines as well. And the people I've spoken to have been very pleasantly surprised about the level of service, particularly on Qatar. Have you had that experience as well?
Well, it's funny you say that. As I said a little bit earlier, I mean, BA flies most places, but airlines like Qatar fly even more. Sometimes I'm an odd traveller because I do a lot of short haul, as I said earlier. I do a lot of long haul to the States. BA is very good at that. But I do flights into the Middle East and I do flights into the Far East. And actually, BA is not as good. It doesn't have as many hubs. So what I have done in the past is if I can't find, either BA is very expensive for certain reasons, what I next do as a loyal, I'd actually have to say probably One World flyer now rather than BA, to be absolutely honest, is I then look at the next One World airline. And the one I use quite a lot is Qatar. And Qatar has a level of service that's fantastic. Their lounges are superb. They do actually treat you as a gentleman. They always seem very, very polite. They do actually come and greet you in the plane. I've noticed that. In fact, I think, that Qatar are probably much better at it than BA are, and yet, I'm just a One World Emerald card holder. But the economy seats on most Qatar flights are actually almost as comfortable as premium. Not quite, but almost. And it's acceptable. And they have a very, very good network of flights around the world. I go into Doha. There's usually a good handling agent there in terms of getting through, or there's a very, very nice lounge. And the other thing I've noticed, which is very, very weird, is BA very, very rarely upgrade me. I probably, out of 120 to 150 flights a year, I probably get upgraded by BA once or twice. I think every other flight I've flown with Qatar, they've upgraded me. Even into the first time I've ever sat in 1A, which was quite a joyful experience flying from Doha to Hanoi. So, yes, I'm looking at Qatar. Why don't I switch straight away? The seat difference between economy and premium, there is a little difference there, and that's probably the only thing. But I think if I did shift airline, I'd certainly look seriously at Qatar.
I'm going to change your job now, and I'm going to give you the job of brand manager of BA. What would be the things that you would change to improve the reputation? Frankly, that's the worst thing. We've talked about the levels of service, but actually it's the people telling their friends about what a bad experience they've had. So actually it's the collateral damage that's going on.
I don't know. I think they're in trouble, and I think if I was you've got to start at the bottom and work your way up at the end of the day. They got a reputation problem. The IT outage the other day certainly didn't help. Strikes haven't helped. The feeling about the company is cheap. I've said it earlier. It's about austerity. It's about cutting the costs, not just cutting the costs for the passengers, but also for the staff. I mean, a point I would make, and I'd be interested to talk to a few thousand other BA passengers like myself. If the flight costs 50 quid more, do I care? No. Whatever it is, 50 quid, 100 quid, within reason. Will I pay more for a premium airline? Yes, I will. But going back to what I would do as a brand manager, you've got to start at the bottom. You've got to improve the service. Because never mind how much you shout and rave and say how wonderful you are, if you're not, people are going to find out. They have to make some serious changes at the top in BA to show that they actually mean it, bring back the quality, keep the prices, by all means, bring back the service. It's going to take 2 or 3 years of hard slog for BA to bring it back. And it isn't going to be easy, but if they don't, I can actually see a situation where the airline will fall apart.
Well, that's superb, Kevin. Thank you very much indeed for talking to me today. And a quick plug for your company, the company that you work for. Tell us all about that.
Well, you've probably all heard of Kraftwerk, which is a band from somewhere around the 70s or 80s, if I remember rightly. I work for a large audiovisual systems integrator called Kraftwerk Living Technologies, and we're based in Austria, and we're about 90 people strong, and a company that does very, very high-end audiovisual systems engineering predominantly for the entertainment market, theme parks, very, very big rides, big AV systems behind the scenes, but also for the automotive market, brand in Germany, and we also work on large museums. So we have fun behind the scenes at places where people go to visit, and we basically bring the places alive with imagery, sound and special effects.
Brilliant, Kevin. Thanks ever so much indeed.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
TheVoicesInYourHead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com,
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23R Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2DME, turn right onto Bravo, link 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left. Follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
Aviation media has long been the domain of the newspapers and magazines.
Well, not anymore. I'm Steve Vischer.
And I'm Grant McCarran, and we're bringing aviation right into your radio.
Yes, we're making aviation cool and interesting for everyone.
Hang on, aviation's always been cool. Check this out.
How cool is this?
Grant, turn that down. Here at Plane Crazy Down Under, we've got pilots, engineers, air traffic controllers, industry leaders, even politicians dropping by to talk to us about the amazing world of aviation right here in Australia and occasionally New Zealand as well.
Wow, that's cooler than I thought, mate.
Find us at planecrazydownunder.com, on iTunes, or lurking about on other people's podcasts just like this one.
We've got crazy accents and lots of great aviation content.
And we promise not to talk about the cricket.
No, never. Not the cricket. Quack, 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 quack. What is cricket anyhow?
Something we win a lot. Oh, there.
Oh!
So we haven't really got any military news this week, but we have got the first instalment of one of the interviews that I took at RIAT last weekend. I got 4 interviews on the Sunday. Me and my dad were there. We also met up with a couple of listeners as well. But I got 4 really, really good interviews with some great air crew there. So, Matt, if you're ready, we're going to play the first interview from RIAT. So you join me there, my first interview then here at the Royal International Air Tattoo at RAF Fairford in Gloucestershire, and I'm here standing next to an Augusta Westland Wildcat HMA2, and I'm here with your Flight Commander Oliver Brooksbank. Oliver, welcome onto the show.
Thank you very much.
So Oliver, tell us a bit about the helicopter we're standing next to here.
So this is the Wildcat HMA2. It's the next evolution of the Lynx helicopter, really. Which I've had the privilege of flying, and I recently re-qualified on this one. But it's the Navy's anti-surface warfare helicopter, which is designed to embark on frigates and destroyers at sea and deliver an anti-surface, that's a ship hunting and killing capability for the Royal Navy.
So tell us a bit about the kind of specs and the performance of the helicopter.
So the design specs is essentially built on the Lynx, So it's an evolution of the same, but with a far better and upgraded weapons, sensors and engine platform. So the performance we get out of this is significantly better, particularly in hot and high climates, particularly in the Gulf region where we're used to operating at temperatures up to 50 degrees. With the Lynx, we weren't able to even lift off the deck frequently with full fuel, whereas this thing, we can get off any ship, any temperature, and just get going with the mission.
Excellent. What kind of speeds does this do flat out?
Well, this one's rated to 158 knots. However, the cruise speed is 120, and we try to keep it down around that speed just to conserve fuel. And the less speed we do, clearly the less fuel we'll consume, the more time airborne we can spend.
So these have been in service now for quite a few years. Is this particular model we're looking at here, is that quite an old version?
No, this one's got 60 hours on the clock.
60?
So this is one of the newest ones in the Navy. 815 Squadron, where this one's based, has only been fully Wildcat equipped this year. So although the Wildcat program has been on the front line for the last 5 years with the Army and the Royal Navy, actually we're only fully operational capable this year, and we're still yet to get our missile system in line. So this aircraft is yet to see its full potential.
So crew complement then, what's the usual kind of sort of standard mission you kind of do with it?
We try and keep the crew complement small, because the design of this aircraft is that we can embark on frigates and destroyers at sea. We don't have that much space on our frigates, therefore the crew is small. We have one pilot, one observer, the senior of which is the flight commander, and then we have 8 engineers to look after it, led by a senior maintenance rating, which is the chief petty officer. One of the crewmen will be our winchman, and then if we're going to an area which requires a maritime sniper team, then we'll take 2 Royal Marines as well.
So a bit about yourself, Oliver. How did things start with you? With was it a passion, an early passion for aviation?
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Cornwall. I looked to the horizon of the sea and said that's where I want to go for my living, and flying sounded cool as well. And the Navy was the only one which could combine the two for me. So I joined the Navy after university, which was 3 years of loafing. I could have joined at 18 and had much more of a career. But no, I learned to fly the Lynx initially, flew the Mark 8 on the front line for a few years, and then I've converted over to this for a few more years of frontline service, hopefully.
Oh, fantastic. What other aircraft do you fly? You just fly the Wildcat?
Just Wildcat at the moment. As I said, the Lynx Mark 8 was my old love, but I've converted on this one now. And with the amount of training that you need to do for each aircraft type, in the military you very rarely skip from one type to the other. It's possible, but once you've learnt your aircraft type, you want to specialise on that and stay with it.
So have you got a PPL, or do you do any kind of GA flying at all, or is it just purely based for the job you do?
No, I don't, I'm afraid. The weekends I spend with the family, because actually the Navy takes me away quite a lot, which is fantastic news, but not very popular with the wife and kids. So.
What about the future then? What plan have you got? Any plans in place? Do you want to progress on to other types of aircraft, or you want to?
I think I've made my bed with rotary wing. The Navy's obviously got a really bright future with the F-35 and a lot more fixed wing activity on our carriers. However, I'm committed to Wildcat aviation. Since I'm I'm 30, so hopefully I've got another 20-25 years of service with the Royal Navy. So I'll look hopefully to rise through the ranks of the squadron, hopefully command a squadron one day.
So a bit of kind of inspiration for our younger listeners who are probably might want to join the Royal Navy and get to the position where you are now. Any advice?
Yeah, for sure. Keep your head down, study hard at school. Join at 18 if you can. The Navy will give you a degree just for doing flying training. And don't keep your options restricted to one of the service types. Each of the services will offer a different type of aviation, and the Navy particularly is expanding its horizons. You'll be able to travel all over the world, and I know that's a well-trodden cliche, but we have ships all over the world at the moment in every ocean, and with these new carriers coming online, it's an exciting time to join the Navy.
So the question we ask, one of the last questions we always ask any pilots we interview at air shows, Oliver, is given a chance, and this is kind of a hard put you on the spot, given a chance to fly any aircraft, rotary wing, fixed, whatever, flying, retired, what would it be? Just that, if you could just jump in now and take the controls and fly.
Oh, really tough. It would be rotary, and I think it would be the MH60 down at the end. It's a battle-hardened helicopter. It's massively capable. It's got huge range, and they do some of the most exciting missions that I've ever heard of. I've been talking to those guys this afternoon, and the idea of charging 700 miles into the desert to go and rescue some of your fallen comrades is awesome. So I think if I had my life again, that's what I'd do. Obviously, I'd have to be American too.
That helps, yeah, and have the weather as well to go with it. Well, Oliver, it's been fantastic to talk to you today on the show, and I want to thank you for your time and your service as well, and all the best for the future. So we're just watching the final display by the Patrouille de Suisse here at RIAT, and here they go flying past. Excellent display by the Patrouille de Suisse, and joining me here on the grass overlooking the flight line is our resident photographer at large, Dan Hannington. Hello Dan, how's things?
Hi Carlos, yeah, very well thank you. Having a great day here at RIAT. Weather wasn't too good this morning, but it's cleared up a bit now.
So what's been the highlight so far for you then, Dan?
The highlight for me, I think, was seeing the Thunderbirds, as I've never seen them before. And yesterday was the F-22 Raptor. That was great. The weather was a lot better yesterday, so it was able to perform. It wasn't today, unfortunately. So, yeah, the Raptor's always a favourite.
So you were here yesterday. Obviously, the weather was slightly better. Any of the displays yesterday which kind of were possibly better than today?
Oh, you put me on the spot now. Trying to think.
Did the Reds display yesterday, Dan?
Reds did display yesterday, yeah. Actually, I'll tell you, a highlight for me yesterday actually was the fly past with the red arrows and the Thunderbirds in formation. It was a single fly past, and it was the only one for the weekend. So
yeah, I missed that. Gutted. I take it you got some good shots.
I got a couple of shots. Yeah, I put them out on social media. But yeah, that was nice to see the two Air Forces display teams flying together.
Fantastic. So you're off. This is your last day here at RIAT. Then you're off home tomorrow.
Off home tonight, actually. As soon as the air show finishes, I'm heading back home. Only done 2 days this year. Last year I was here for 4. But yeah, can only do 2 days this year.
Excellent. So what else is left to do for today then, Dan? Any more displays or anything you've got? I know we've got the C-27J Spartan coming up in a bit.
For me, I think it's going to be the Su-27 they're saying is going to display. They're just talking about it now. That is something I haven't seen for a long time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. So that'll be my last thing to see before I go home, I think.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us, Dan. It's been good to speak to you as always, and keep the photography coming. Just for the benefit of those who live in a hole somewhere, where can people find your awesome photos on Instagram?
Okay, on Instagram I am DH_aviation_photography. Twitter I'm at Dan Air. And yeah, that's it.
Excellent. So also with me is David Harris. David, you are our resident BA expert here today. What's been the highlight for you here at the show then, David?
Good to see the Thunderbirds then for here. Well, always good to see the Airways and BB, etc. Today's my first out of 3 days, so I'm here tomorrow and Monday as well. Got lots of aeroplanes to log yet. It's a shame about the weather though. It's quite overcast here today, unfortunately.
So you've been logging aircraft frantically on your pad. I can see you've been marking down stuff. Any of those on static display that you're really keen to see you've seen today?
I haven't seen the Australian 737 Registrar yet. It's always nice to see some US Air Force heavies and stuff. What else is there? Had some just nice shots of the Thunderbirds earlier on, that kind of thing. It's nice to see the Canadian Air Force C-17 Globemaster, because that's really rare. There's 2 Airbus A350s here as well, which is quite rare because they normally only send in one, really.
Have you seen, David, down the bottom there, there's an Iranian Hercules?
I think an Israeli one, I think it is. Yeah. That's quite rare.
So yeah, that is rare. I did hear a little whisper. That is quite a rare thing to see here at the show. So I'll take it you've got some. You've took the details of that one.
I have, yeah.
Okay, so anything left that you're looking forward to seeing then for the rest of the show? Obviously, we've got this. I've said the dam. We've got the Spartan coming up soon.
Yeah. I'm not sure really. Just trying to see all the static and then enjoy the show tomorrow. Really.
Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of the show today, David, and tomorrow. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks.
So that was the first then of the interviews that I took.
One of two.
One of four.
One of two.
Of 4 interviews.
Yeah, 4 interviews, 2 in each.
2, yeah.
We just played 2 interviews,
yes.
Carlos.
But there's 3 left. There's 3 more pilot ones left. Yes, there is, Matt.
I'm absolutely confused.
Yeah. There is, honestly. Okay. If you check your emails, there's 3 more pilot interviews left.
Stay tuned, everyone. There's a surprise to me as well.
They're in the Dropbox, Matt. They're in the Dropbox.
They're not. That's the problem. One is missing.
One's emailed to you, to your email.
Oh, you see, that's where we went wrong.
And I did tell you on WhatsApp that was what I'd done.
Yeah, but I don't read the show notes. You can't expect me to read my WhatsApps as well, can you? I mean, come on, man.
I think he replies to his WhatsApp without thinking.
Yeah, you know, it's fine. Yeah, I'm a busy guy. What can I say? Anyway.
No, but that was the first of 4 pilot interviews at RIAT, and big thanks to everyone involved. Yeah. It was a great Sunday. Really enjoyed that day immensely. The weather really did let us down in the morning, unfortunately, but they did get some quite good flights in, and and obviously, a big thanks again to Jonathan Warner for loaning me his camera.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
So next up, we've got a little piece sent in by listener Barbara Parish. So we're going to listen to that right now.
Hi, Carlos and Matt. It's Barbara here. Although I wasn't able to watch the Plain Talking UK, Australian and New Zealand episode live last week, I watched it later and thoroughly enjoyed it. So with big thanks to all our aviation friends and cousins down under. I have really enjoyed Nev's focus on the airline passenger experience, and the interviews have been very interesting. The passenger perspective is one that we very rarely focus on, so thank you, Nev and Plain Talking UK. The passenger or airline customer is at the heart of the airline industry. Booking and planning air travel in these modern times can be so complicated and stressful. It's so important, therefore, that when passengers finally board that plane, they are genuinely welcomed aboard with a smile and feel that the cabin crew or flight attendants genuinely want to look after them, regardless of whether they are sat in first class, business class, or economy. Kindness, warmth, and a smile go a long way with people. And of course the glamour. It's so important to be smart and glamorous. It's so important for the cabin crew to look their best. And it certainly is for me. Whether you have good or bad service can really influence which airline you choose to fly with next time. I just wanted to redress the balance a little because I know British Airways, which is my flag airline, it represents my flag and my country. Well, it's had a lot of bad press lately and some real problems. A couple of weeks ago on Plain Talking UK, Nev interviewed a particular passenger's experience of British Airways. I know some people are regular flyers with BA. I know for this person their British Airways experience hadn't been a good one, particularly regarding how they were treated by the cabin crew or flight attendants. But I wanted to redress the balance and mention my experience of flying British Airways to the meet-up at Pittsburgh in May this year. I have flown a lot in my life and flown on many different airlines, but this year I chose to fly British Airways after many, many years, and I wasn't sure what I would experience. But I have to say the service in economy was very, very good. Yes, my wine came a little late with the meal, but my upgraded meal was delicious, and the most important thing for me was that the cabin crew were lovely. They were a mixed fleet crew, quite young, in their 20s and 30s. They were smart and glamorous. They were pleasant, full of smiles, and so very helpful. Just as, and actually, may I say more smiley than the United Arab Emirates crew I flew with 3 years ago. When there was a quiet time during the flight, they even welcomed me with open arms into the galley to speak to me. They were so happy to answer my questions on their life as cabin crew and how their work rotas all worked. Did they like their job, etc., etc. They all genuinely loved their job as cabin crew and working for British Airways. You know, and I meet a lot of fake people in my life, but these were not false or fake, totally genuine, so friendly. I was a nurse for about 18 years, and like people in many other professions and jobs, there are those who really are enthusiastic about their work and go the extra mile for you, and then the others who don't, or are just very unhappy in themselves, and it shows in their job. But we all have good days and bad days. Then there is the strange phenomenon of the great team of people on duty, or the terrible team on duty. You know, it's funny how teams and dynamics of certain people working together either gel or don't, and it does notice to those who are being served. I know British Airways has had a lot of bad press recently. Things have gone wrong, and the cabin crew strikes. And I'm not going into any detail about that, but we have to acknowledge that many British Airways cabin crew are facing, I believe, pay cuts, cuts to bonuses, and also changes to their working patterns, etc. You know, none of us would find that pleasant either. We all need to pay the bills, and we all have financial commitments. As I say, I am not making judgments either way as to whether striking is right or wrong, but the truth is there is a lot of politics at the moment in British Airways, and British Airways is trying to adapt to an ever-changing airline industry and global world. At one time, British Airways was one of the best airlines in the world, right at the top, and some would argue it still is. But something has changed within British Airways, and many people don't see it as the airline it once was. So why is that? Maybe the problem is that it's lost its patriotic soul and spirit, that patriotic passion amongst its staff and managers and directors that it once had. It was British. You know, we were all proud of that. The nation was proud of its airline. We had Concorde right at its centre. It was our flag, Airline, and it had the highest of those old traditional British values and standards that we were once so renowned for the world over. Soul and having a spirit is so important in any business, something that makes it unique and special. The problem now in a global world is that often that spirit and soul is drowned out by money, always taking precedence, always the bottom line. The airline industry has become so competitive and cutthroat, and dare I say it, global, which can be of benefit in some ways, but also brings blandness and a loss of that soul and spirit. And I would love for everyone to say again just how marvellous British Airways is. Did you know I read a well-known famous book in the airline world called Coffee, Tea or Me? It's a brilliant book, and I'd really recommend anyone who loves the airline industry to read it. It's called Coffee, Tea or Me, and it's about two air stewardesses' experiences working for an American airline in the 1960s. Do you know that those American airlines always wanted to model their air hostesses on the British air hostess model because it was considered back then the best? So come on, British Airways, fly that flag with pride and be the best again. And you know, this has inspired me to do some research into the history of British Airways and its service to passengers. And I could perhaps share that with the listeners on one of your episodes. Anyway, so take care, Matt and Carlos and everyone. Bye-bye.
So a massive thank you to Barbara for sending that in for us.
I think we all agree. I think they really should, like, rah, come on, British Airways.
Yeah, put some tinsel and stuff on, and some LED lights and
right. Okay,
sparkly
I think it might take a little more
banners.
than that.
Oh, okay, you know what they should do?
Yeah.
Karaoke on board all aircraft.
Karaoke on board all aircraft. Can you imagine?
Now, this is a great idea.
Yeah, and you heard it here first.
Okay, all right.
So, moving swiftly on, then
Yes,
we have got something coming up next, which is been especially asked for by Matt.
Yes,
it's been homework.
Yeah, this is this. I set Pip some homework. Now, those of you who were at Duxford will know that the start of our flying display at Duxford was opened by the wonderful Red Arrows.
Woo-hoo.
Now, they got, I think it was about 5 minutes in, if I remember correctly. Nev, was it something like that? I think they hadn't been going long. They've been going about 5 minutes, and suddenly the skies went really quiet. Then they, is it Red 10 or whoever it is that does the PA? Is it Red 10 who does the PA? Anyway, whoever's doing the commentary, then came over to say that we've just had to halt the display because somebody has infringed the airspace, and then he sort of briefly mentioned the word NOTAMs. Now, Carlos had sort of shown me the NOTAMs that were in place for the airshow, and I got a little bit confused. So I texted Pip and asked him for his expert opinion.
Plane safety from the flight deck with pilot Pip.
Hi there everyone, it's Pip here with another segment. Now, whilst you lot were off enjoying yourselves the other week at Duxford, there was a rather unfortunate event involving the Red Arrows, and Matt sent me a little text message about it. He said that while we were at Duxford, the Red Arrows were halted during their show because some moron with a lawnmower engine strapped to a kite decided to wander into the Red Arrows exclusion zone. Would be great to know more about NOTAMs and what's the procedure when someone does violate the Arrows airspace. Okay, well, yes, happy to talk about that. And unfortunately, it is a pretty frequent event that the Red Arrows have to call off or at least temporarily halt their display because someone in a light aircraft, a helicopter, or a paraglider or something hasn't read the NOTAMs and hasn't adequately prepared for their flight, and they've gone blundering right through the middle of the display zone. So, first of all, Matt mentioned NOTAMs there. What's a NOTAM? A NOTAM is a notice to airmen. And we've talked about those before, but specifically with regards to air shows, all air show events will publish a NOTAM, and this is a bit of information telling the general flying public when and where their air show is and if it has any restricted airspace around it. And they typically do, especially when the Red Arrows are displaying. You know, these are fast aircraft doing high energy maneuvers, so they need to have a bit of airspace around the airfield protected just for them so that they can fly without worrying that they're going to crash into someone who's bimbling through. And typically, NOTAMed restricted airspace or temporary restriction on airspace around an airfield will be something like 6 miles centred on the airfield. I'm looking at the NOTAM that was being issued for the Shuttleworth Air Show on August 7th, and they've got a bit of airspace, circular airspace centred on the airfield, 6 miles in diameter, up to I think about 4,000 feet, which seems pretty reasonable. So this means that during the times stated on the NOTAM and during that geographical area as stated on the NOTAM, that you are not allowed to fly in that airspace. And it's incumbent upon any pilot, general aviation pilot, to make sure that they have gone out before their flight and adequately prepared and researched before they get airborne. They need to know what NOTAMs affect them for their flight. So where can you go and find these NOTAMs? Well, actually, there's all sorts of places, mobile phone apps, websites, all kinds of places you can find them, but they all will come from one source, and that would be the AIS, the Aeronautical Information Service, administered by NATS. It has an online tool. It's very simple. You can go online, you can type in the area of which you're interested, the bit of sky that you're going to be flying in, and it will bring up all the NOTAMs associated for that area and for that time, and it will state very clearly what's affecting you. And it's not just restricted airspace associated with air shows that will show up on your NOTAM search, it might show you all sorts of things, perhaps UAV or drone events, or low-level aerial filming, or gliding competitions, for instance. All sorts of information, but particularly it will very clearly tell you when and where the restricted airspaces are for the air shows. And I would suggest that any pilot takes a close look at them and gives them a very wide berth. So I used the example of the Old Warden or Shuttleworth Air Show next month, has a 6-mile zone around it. Well, you know, if I was planning a flight, I wouldn't aim to avoid that by just half a mile, you know, fly 6.5 miles from it. I'd give it a really wide berth, just to be on the safe side. So it's really important that before every single flight, a pilot thoroughly checks his NOTAMs. Not only is it important, it's a legal requirement, and you can get yourselves in a whole heap of trouble if you are found to have violated a restricted airspace. There have been numerous cases in the past where pilots have been traced and taken to court by the CAA and prosecuted for violating airspace associated with red arrows displays. Most recently, there was a case in 2016, again at the Old Warden Shuttleworth Air Show. A helicopter on its way from London, the guy obviously hadn't checked his NOTAMs, and he went bimbling right through the middle of the zone, and the red arrows had to abandon their display, which obviously upset a lot of the general public, thousands of people who had turned out to see them. And that particular gentleman was taken to court and found guilty, and he lost his license, and he was fined, I think about £3,500 plus some costs payable to the CAA. So not a fun day out for him at all. And he's not the only one. There have been others as well. I was just reading of a Belgian pilot back in 2005 who managed to bust the zone around the Shoreham Air Show, and similarly he was taken to court, prosecuted and fined a similar amount, £3,000 or £4,000. All for the sake of a few minutes spent checking the NOTAMs. And you know what? If you haven't got an internet connection, well, there's lots of other ways you can check the NOTAMs. There's even a free phone number that you can call and listen to a recorded message, and it will tell you all of the restricted airspace and relevant NOTAMs for that day. But really, in this day and age, there's no excuse. As I say, you can get them on your mobile phones. There's software like SkyDemon will automatically plot all the NOTAMs for you and give it to you in graphical form, so you can see exactly where all these restricted zones are. So no excuse. You may well have heard us mention before on various podcasts that NOTAMs can be a bit of a pain in the backside to go through. And that's true when we're looking at it from an airline perspective, particularly if you're flying a very long flight, a long-haul flight across continents and oceans. You might get literally dozens and dozens of pages of NOTAM. So the NOTAM system in itself is very dated. It's a bit old-fashioned, and it really isn't very efficient at all. And it desperately needs updating. But for the general aviation pilot just doing a short hop around the country between a couple of small airfields, then actually it's really quite simple. You can go on yourself, have a look at the website, and you can even have a little play around with it. Every country has their own version of this. The NATS one you can find if you just search NATS AIS or nats-uk.ead.it.com. It's all very accessible. So what's the process when it does happen, when an aircraft accidentally strays into some restricted airspace? What does that mean for the red arrows? Well, unfortunately, it means they've got to stop what they're doing, either temporarily or permanently for that day. They can't take the risk of having a small aircraft flying through because they don't know what he's going to be doing. They don't know where he's going. They don't know if he's going to change direction suddenly. Is he going to climb? Is he going to descend? It's a complete unknown. So the only course of action open to them is just to stop their display, go off, maybe hold somewhere, or even land or abandon the whole thing, as has happened several times before. And how do these aircraft get spotted? Well, it could be the red arrows themselves see this guy as they're doing their display and call a halt to it. More likely it will be someone on radar, a local ATC unit perhaps has spotted the aircraft. Certainly with this helicopter last year, that helicopter pilot was actually talking to a radar controller at Luton who warned him, told him precisely what was going on at the air show, but somehow he managed to get it wrong anyhow. As I've mentioned before, there is a small number of pilots who seem to think it's a good idea to fly around without their transponders switched on because they think they're hidden. But therein lies danger, really, because if they've not checked their NOTAMs and they go off and fly through the middle of a red arrows display, they're really putting everyone in a lot of danger because the Reds can't see them perhaps, and they're certainly not visible on radar. Well, at least not secondary radar anyhow. And of course, actually, it's not just the displays themselves that you have to watch out for. The red arrows will usually transit at low level on their way from Scampton or wherever they happen to be down to the air show itself. You'll quite often see them, or I've seen them certainly several times, whizzing across at just a few hundred feet. And those are NOTAMs as well, those routes that they're taking and the times that can also be found in NOTAM. So it's a good idea if you see the red arrows are transiting close to where you want to be, well then just have a think about that and give it a bit of a wide berth, or perhaps just delay your flight 10 or 15 minutes to let them go by. And incidentally, that does work both ways. The red arrows have been known on several occasions to be not quite where or when they said they were going to be. In fact, each of the red arrows NOTAMs does come with a little caveat saying that times and locations are approximate and may change with little notice due to weather, operational reasons, that sort of thing. So you do have to be on your guard. All goes back to the basic principle of see and avoid. Okay, folks, that's it for this segment. We'll hopefully catch you all on another episode of Plane Talking UK. Take care all, fly safe.
Massive thank you, as always, to Pip for sending that in to us today.
Great, and yes, and thanks for doing your homework.
He's done his homework. He's done his homework prior. Well done, Pip. Yeah, so it's interesting to hear exactly what you have to do and what things are in place for that kind of.
I mean, I was familiar with the phrase NOTAMs only because obviously we were discussing
Notice to air,
and actually before all the air show started, Carlos actually showed me like all the NOTAMs.
Yeah, it was on there.
And what was occurring, as I say, and then I know it was very unfair of me to describe it as a lawnmower engine strapped to a glider.
That's one of the other things as well, Matt. You're saying just then about that NOTAMs that I could see them. It's not just something that pilots can see.
Yeah, it's open.
It's not restricted to just pilots. Absolutely. There's a really good app. Which I've got on my phone.
And Mr. Microlight Flyer basically didn't do his homework.
Yeah. So. It's called Aero Weather. It's on iOS and Android. It's called Aero Weather. And
on Android, you say?
It's on
What's
Android.
That?
It's on. There we go. It's Aero Weather.
Nev's shaking his head here. It's just
no, that's not really working that well, is it?
No, indeed. Nev doesn't know.
Yeah, but that app, it basically
it's Android.
What's Android, Nev?
We're just going to shut their microphones off a minute. Basically, that app can tell you the weather or anything at NOTAMs at any airport in the UK or the world.
Right, indeed. Okay, good.
Right, so moving on then, we've got one last piece of awesome feedback. Well, it's a kind of segment, really. And if you remember a few weeks back, we were talking about turbulence and kind of things being thrown around cabins and people injuring themselves and stuff.
We did.
And, Captain Nick has very, very kindly put together a little interesting piece all about turbulence and from the pilot's point of view.
So as they say on APG, then it's your seat back tables, please, in their upright position as we welcome APG royalty to the show.
Hi there, Matt and Carlos. It's the old pilot here. A few episodes ago, you were chatting about some turbulence, which hit an A380, Emirates, I think. And you asked how the pilots knew if it was there or not, and when pilots decide to put the seatbelt signs on. So I thought I'd just send in a little bit of feedback, perhaps, to answer some of your questions. There are some guides as to how turbulence should be described, such as occupants may feel a slight strain against seatbelts or shoulder straps. Unsecured objects may be displaced slightly. Food service may be conducted and little or no difficulty is encountered walking. This would be light turbulence, and for that we probably wouldn't need the belts to go on. The next level would feel like this. Occupants feel definite strains against seat belts or shoulder straps. Unsecured objects are dislodged. Food service and walking are difficult. Now, that's moderate, and for that I would definitely put the seatbelt signs on. The worst would be severe, which is described as occupants are forced violently against seatbelts or shoulder straps, unsecured objects are tossed about, food service and walking are impossible. So at this point, I would expect our cabin crew to seat themselves and secure themselves in, having, of course, tied it up what they can, make sure there are no loose trolleys around and nothing that can fly around and injure people. So how do we know when one of those levels of turbulence is coming? Okay, when we brief for a flight, we get a standard significant weather chart with our route marked on it. And on it are the areas where we can expect turbulence and the severity forecast in that area. They're fairly generic and they cover a large area, but they show within dotted lines areas of expected turbulence. The symbol that looks like an upturned V on a straight line is moderate, and if it has a second upturned V over the top, it means severe. They are valid for 6 hours and forecast ahead for 24 hours, so they're not exactly super accurate, particularly towards the end of forecast. Other systems provide forecasts, such as the Jeppesen Flight Deck Pro, but again, they're just a forecast. And in addition, if there are known areas of forecast, air traffic controllers will almost certainly advise us, and they will also issue SIGMETs, significant meteorology warnings, which may cover a large area, and that'll usually mean plotting out latitudes and longitudes to form a kind of a box or certainly the boundaries of an area of turbulence and what you can expect within that. So all those systems are available. Our radar, of course, shows us areas of clouds and turbulence within the cloud by measuring the velocity of the water droplets moving, but that requires the presence of water drops to bounce the radar off. Clear air turbulence, the kind that is often unexpected, doesn't occur within clouds. Obviously, it would then be cloudy air turbulence. It's not a thing. Okay, that's just me. It's often created at the boundaries of those fast-moving streams of air we call jet streams, and they spin around the world. There's, generally speaking, a line of them going in the subtropical regions, both north and south of the equator. They're fairly permanent. And there's also one between the polar and temperate regions, but that's more associated with weather fronts. So they're the kinds that we normally get across the Atlantic. The presence of jet stream we can see by watching the changes in the wind speed and direction on the readout we get from our inertial reference systems, or by spotting a change in the outside air temperature. But that can often be a bit late. The boundary can sometimes be quite abrupt between smooth air and turbulent air. Other phenomena such as wave turbulence can affect us. This can be caused in several ways, but the easiest to understand is when air is deflected up by a line of mountains, and the effect can continue into the upper atmosphere, and it continued to be reflected for hundreds of miles downwind of a mountain range. If we're lucky, we can identify waves by the specific lenticular clouds that can form at the peak of each wave. The best method for working out if there's turbulence ahead is from PIREPs, that is, pilot reports from the aircraft ahead. Most of us despair at the constant inquiries about light turbulence because that really doesn't affect us, or certainly doesn't affect our safety. But when we hear about moderate or severe, obviously our ears prick up. But when we're alone in an area and we start to feel the air moving, after many thousands of hours and millions of miles of experience, we can usually feel the distinctive type of movement that clear air turbulence gives as it builds up, and we can usually get the seatbelt signs on in time to secure the cabin. However, sometimes, of course, it comes upon us without any warning, and that will obviously be a problem for anyone who's not properly secured. This is why I always mention in my PA, welcoming everyone onto the aircraft, that the safest way to travel is with your seatbelts properly fastened whenever seated.
And I think that's probably the best advice
Never a
anybody
truer
could,
word.
No, indeed.
I know.
The best advice you could ever possibly get given, I think.
We are going to say a massive thank you to Captain Nick for sending that little segment in for us there. It's very kind of you, Nick, for sending it. He takes a lot of time and effort in putting his bits together for us, and obviously APG as well.
Yeah.
And the production content is also awesome.
Indeed.
So we've got Nev and Nick.
I know. What more could we need?
What more could we
Absolutely.
need?
What were you going to say then, Eoin? Sorry?
It's just fantastic to hear the perspective of a pilot and what goes on when into making those decisions of when to put on seatbelt signs and that sort of thing, especially for us. I mean, I've only really had one incident where, funnily enough, where we crossed behind an A380.
Right. As you do.
The seatbelts weren't on when a fair bit of turbulence came in, but yeah. It's a really nice perspective, so thank you, Nick.
Indeed. So before we start to wrap up the show, obviously, Nev, we've got a really special interview. I think it's a really special interview coming up next week. So perhaps you could promo that for us now.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate, actually. I was down at the BBC on Wednesday of this week at New
Listen
Broadcasting
to
House
him name
in
dropping.
London, as you do.
Wandered in casually off the street.
I had a very nice interview with a chap called Richard Westcott. And Richard is the BBC's transport correspondent. And you'll see him on television and listen to him on radio and that kind of thing. And I really wanted to have a chat with him about things like, our usual pet hate, incorrect and inaccurate media reporting, and how he goes about making sure that he gets all the facts. It's a really interesting interview, and after you've heard it, you'll know exactly why. He does a very good job of all the stories that he covers. So that was a great chance to chat with him. He's been very generous with his time, and I've just sent the interview in to the guys this week. So we'll play that out on next week's show, because I shan't be around. I've got some work commitments, unfortunately, next week. But there'll be the usual Nev's passenger segment.
So we won't be without Nev. That's the main thing. We won't be without Nev. His dulcet tones will be joining us.
Yeah.
Yes, they'll just be on tape, sadly, next week. But,
that's a shame.
Yeah, indeed. It's it's time, really. As I say, we've got a very special weekend coming up next weekend.
Yes. So next weekend, we're not going to be doing a show on Friday. Nope. Next weekend we are going to be live on
location.
Sunday on location at the Old Buckingham Air Show. Now that's going to be our first time there at Old Buck. We're going to do the live stream like we did at Seething last year, so those of you guys who are across the globe can watch the action in the sky, hopefully, as long as everything works, which it should do. And if you want to take yourselves over to allthews.oldbuckinghamairshow.co.uk, Matt will put the link in the show notes for the show. Take yourselves over to there, because you can click on there and purchase tickets if you're in the area for the air show. Now on the Sunday they've got some really good acts lined up. They've got Supermarine Spitfire MH434. They've got Matt Summers with Ivan's RV8, Nigel Wilson with the Yak 52. They've got the Wildcats there, always great to see the Wildcats. They've got the Extra and the Model Extra as well flying alongside, which is awesome to see. They've got the Hawker Hurricane as well flying. Otto the helicopter, which is really funny to see. That's one of those helicopters with the big eyes on the front and stuff. It's quite funny for the kids, like that one. Brendan O'Brien's Flying Circus. Now this guy is going to be landing an aircraft on a moving trailer being towed by a 4x4, so that'll be good to see. They've got the Beechcraft Stagger Wing doing a display. Rod Dean is going to be there as well, flying his aircraft. The Shark P51 Mustang, that's also great to see with the shark teeth on the front of the cowlings there. And also a special aircraft flying in and doing a few flypasts for the Old Buckingham guys will be the Sally B. That's the B-17 Flying Fortress from Duxford. She'll be flying and doing a nice little display pass and stuff for us there. So take yourselves over to there, the Old Buckingham Air Show, and if you're going to be in the area, Yeah, please. Hopefully there'll be some of you guys.
Although we're only doing a live show on the Sunday, myself and Eoin, all being well, will be representing PT UK at our little store, which is where we're going to do the live show from on the Sunday. So we'll be myself and Eoin will be there, so you can come meet both of us if you are going to the Old Buckingham Air Show. And yeah, as I say, I mean, most people aren't going to be coming there to see me. I'm not under any illusions whatsoever. They'll be there wanting there to see Eoin. So that'll be
no, Matt. We're myself included. We're coming to see you.
Yeah, whatever. And then on the Sunday, it's the Dream Team. Let's be honest, it's myself and Carlos. And yeah, we're going to attempt, and I do stress attempt, technology permitting, we're going to do a live show with all the usual bits and pieces. We've got, as Nev previewed a moment ago, we've got a great segment from Mr. Westcott. We're going to be. I'm really looking forward to hearing that in its entirety. And yeah, Nev just casually popped in that you just wandered into an currently unused radio studio, didn't you, to do your interview?
Yeah, the thing about New Broadcasting House, it's a huge building, but there's very little spare space actually.
Yes,
so, yeah, it was good, and there we are. So yes, that'll be a very good thing. So
yeah,
the cat has just turned up as well.
Indeed, absolutely. We do like a feline friend on the show. Indeed. So that's going to be really good fun. And then obviously Nev's passenger experience.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it is. Can you remember who it is next week, sir?
Yes, I can, and it's a bit of a treat actually.
Oh.
It's another chum of mine, Richard Coburn, and I would describe him as the Lovey's Lovey.
Oh,
and, you will love him to death.
Can't wait.
He's a great fella.
It's going to be good.
So don't forget, not next Friday, it's next Sunday.
Yep. Okay.
We're going to be live at the air show.
Which means hopefully, all being well, the audio version will be released on the Monday.
So we're going to say a massive thanks then to everyone who's joined us on the live show tonight in the YouTube chat room. And the chat room's been really busy tonight, as always. So a massive thanks to you guys and girls who've joined us in there tonight. And also a big thanks as well to everyone who downloads the show each week on iTunes and all the other relevant podcasty type apps.
As I'm sure, because Owen's been studying the numbers, we are very, very proud of our numbers at the moment. It's wow, just thank you guys. It makes us feel like we're not wasting our time every week, frankly. So thank you so very much.
And hope you've enjoyed all the, because we've had a lot of content in tonight's episodes. We hope you've enjoyed all the interviews and all the little segments that have been sent in. Don't forget, send us in your audio bits if you want to send us some audio feedback in. You can send them too.
Indeed, it is podcast@planetalkinguk.com. You can send us some messages via Facebook, so it's facebook.com/planetalkinguk. And obviously, the best way to get a hold of us is to tweet. You can tweet all of us via @planetalkinguk.
So that's it. That's where we bring episode number 174 to a close. Big thanks to Eoin for joining us on the show tonight. Eoin, have a safe flight tomorrow.
Yeah, where are you off to anywhere glamorous?
I'm going to Berlin, and then I'm going to tour tomorrow, if weather permitting.
Yes, we actually while we were listening to those segments, Carlos drew up the lightning map for the two areas to which Eoin is supposed to be going to tomorrow, and it's looking quite unfriendly. Let's be honest. Yeah, indeed.
Well, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that it's only a 2-sector day, and that somebody else gets the fortune of getting my other 2 flights.
There we are. That's looking lovely.
For those of you watching the YouTube feed, you could probably see on my camera
absolutely
those pulsating orange and red bits near where Owen's flying tomorrow.
Yes. So good luck, Eoin. We'll all be thinking of you as you're marooned in some unpleasant part of Europe.
And also a massive thanks, thanks as always to Nev for joining us as well again this week.
Absolutely. What's the name of your furry friend, sir?
This is Tom, and
that's
Tom's
original.
a stray cat.
Is Tom a cat?
He just turned up at our house, so
Did he?
We had him chipped, and we've had him for 6 years now. I think.
Wow! Yes, he's made himself very at home. Yes, absolutely. What a lovely fellow.
Yes.
So that's it. That's where we wrap up the show. Thanks very much to everyone. We'll see you next Sunday if you're going to join us for the live show.
Looking forward to seeing you all on Saturday. If you're coming on Saturday as well,
that's
great to meet you as well.
Indeed. Take care, guys. We'll see you all very soon.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.